YouTube, it's Brad Phillips. Look at this thing. We've got the Habu SS NX8. Yes, this thing comes equipped with a smart receiver. It is very good. We've already flown this 3 times. Note the elevator position is slightly up. I would say it's half the thickness of the elevator on this. That gets you a nice level flying takeoff. And we also adjusted the elevator after flight number 1. We're gonna have flight number 1, 2, and 3. This is flight number 4. We have better lighting. We kind of ran out of light. This is flown on 4000 6S right now. We fly it on 4000 6S Gen 1 and Gen 2, as well as 5000. And it flies fine on 5000. You got to push it all the way back to the bulkhead. The CG mark, as you can see on the top of the wing, it's probably a little bit too far back. And I feel like it needs to be up just a hair so it's a little bit more tail heavy. Or not, don't move the CG mark, just put your battery where we have it. That's where we're running the battery right now. If you put it in, like they say in the manual, you're gonna find that it's very hard to flare. It's a lot windier now than it was last night, so maybe those videos will be better. The landing gear were not an issue. They're very robust and very strong. Thrust reverse works good, and the power to weight ratio is great. You can do hand launches, and we show that too. So please do stick around, watch the whole video. If you're curious, full disclosure, we lost our landing aid sensor plug. We flipped it around so it was going the other way, so maybe that had something to do with it. But when I thrust reversed, it just blew out at some point. So I don't know. If you end up getting the landing aid sensor, you may want to tape that thing in. I don't even care because this is better. I didn't like having it there in the first place. So that's our full disclosure. We're going to show you some taxi, which we ordinarily wouldn't show on a Maiden like this. Controllable. Controllable. And panic or pilot fatigue. The wind is going a little bit backward from normal. Look how low that thing sits too. The gear are a little bit shorter than they were on the STS, which is the safe trainer. I want you back 2 steps so we're out of sun there, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna back taxi all the way out to the end and then turn around. This plane flies glorious. If you don't adjust your elevator to the outside hole and make the accommodating cuts in the foam, you will probably have trouble if you have any obstructions to clear on Maiden. Do it. Okay, here we go. We'll show you exactly what we did. Okay, full throttle. Look how fast that thing fires up. Oh yeah, buddy. Out of the throttle, getting jostled around. This thing glides very nicely, just like it did before. It's definitely a little bit less light on its feet when you put a 5000, but this is a 4000. So as per recommendations from the manual. Love the colors. Very easy to see the orientation. White up against the blue sky is perfect. Sunsets, the yellow does tend to blend a little bit with that. And it is the perimeter color, as you'll note now. So that's one little bit of a miss, I would say. I'd rather see the gray on the outside so you get that perimeter, but I love the way it looks. It's very pretty. The sun is where I'm pointing at now, just so you guys know, so we're gonna get different lighting than our other videos. They're gonna be the opposite. AS3X is really keeping this thing rock solid. Look at this, we can fly in a very tight area. The bowl is tight. Let's go over by the bowl here. Good. Look at this, we got turbulation like crazy. And look how slow I'm flying this. Let's go over the tree line here. 6S gives you the power to do some crazy stuff. I mean, look how insane the ups are. And then down the runway, you good? By the way, that's at crosswind, so we're definitely able to control this thing. My elevator inputs are way more muted than they were because we went to the outside hole. If you're a new pilot, you could definitely leave it in the stock configuration, but you need a big flying space. In safe, you have very good limits on bank angles, so let's show you that now. Okay, going into safe right. Now, there's safe. Look how nice that is. You had no down elevator on the first STS. Okay, just to show you, here's full bank, full up, no throttle, and then full down. That's the one you guys were missing on the first one, okay? Okay, so you want to come back a little, please? Like over here by the middle, and that way we're out of the wind. because that wind's gonna be terrible for noise. It is windy, folks. Very windy right now. Okay, so let's do some landing attempts here. See how zippy it is getting around? Noticeably absent from this plane are retracts and flaps. I'm not sure why that seems to be a popular move with the manufacturers. I think it's got to do with cost and availability of parts possibly. But I can tell you this thing doesn't really need flaps with thrust reverse. Here's our pilot fatigue and out of pilot fatigue. Look how nice that was, guys. Really all you have to do is just pilot fatigue and it's full throttle regardless of stick position. This is stick position. Okay. Look how nice that is. Oh, that was cool. Let's show them that again. Everything is still controllable and up and at. Take the skies on. Now, we do have an alarm set up at 18.6, an audible alarm to announce at 15-second intervals. We show you how to do it, but we set it to 22 first. It was way premature. We were getting warnings on the first takeoff, basically, so don't do that. It's gonna be really annoying if you do. Upside down flight performance is amazing. With our elevator configured the way it is, look at this, guys. That's 75% stick, no problem. You can do all the stuff you wanna do and there's no oscillation. See, that's full throttle. The oscillation you see is true correction from wind. It is very windy. That's our 5-minute timer, by the way. You should be able to get about 8 minutes if you're somewhat conservative with your battery. You can probably do 10 if you're real conservative. Look at this, guys. You good? Mm-hmm. There you go, right where you are. Here we go. Guys, this thing is controllable and it's windy, okay? I demonstrate that because it's tight in that opening. We're only probably about 12 feet from the wall, okay? Now, no flaps. You see that? Look at that, off a bounce, guys. You will not typically get a plane saved off of a bounce like that. I got a nasty, nasty crosswind that was contrary to what I expected. And I got a terrible correction on it. Could probably use a little bit of trimming on the elevator still, but I just love the fact that you could do inside loops. That's 50% stick input. Let's show you 100% just so you know what I'm looking at here. Okay, level flight, approximately level. That's full stick input at full throttle. That is amazing authority and still very good performance. Okay, here we go. Guys, I don't think you realize just how turbulent the air is there, and this thing is doing amazing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show this flight. Let's come out here in the sun if you don't mind. We'll go by the runway, see if we can get a couple of landings. We're at 1:50 past our timer, so we're probably gonna be approaching running out of time here. With this crosswind, it is a little bit more challenging to land, but it's not hard. It's just kind of a little bit harder than dead calm like we had last night. It was glorious. Okay, here we go. We are out of juice, guys. Okay, 50% stick position. By the way, listen. That is just an awesome sound. We are about to kill this battery here. You hear that? Yeah. It's about to die. Oh, guys, if you haven't already set up a plane with pilot fatigue, let's just taxi it back here. Let's taxi it back home. If you haven't already set up a plane with pilot fatigue, oh man, I'm telling you, it's just so much fun, folks. Okay, throttle cut's on.
I feel like pilot fatigue was like the best.
2 minutes and 45 seconds plus 5.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's way windier today, but let's look at our voltages. Oh, it's not dead. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. Okay. So we could probably technically fly for another minute or so. Okay, I interrupted you about your pilot fatigue, camera crew. What were you going to say?
I think it makes so much sense. It's just so counterintuitive to give throttle to stop, and you just don't have to think about it.
And it's another bad habit to learn, because what's going to happen is you're going to do this on the Habu, and then you're going to go to your F-16 and you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to like, oh no, I just crashed my plane. So you can do this on the F-16 and it won't cause a problem because you don't have anything on the F-16 unless you have the F-1680. We just did the F-1670, and by the way, this is very close to the F-1670. The only difference is the AVN-ESC. It's got the 631. It has the 631. Oh, there's also that small minor difference of retracts that are awesome on the 70. So I'm going to tell you guys this, and Horizon's going to love it. If you're on the fence about this plane, get off the fence and order it now. Here's why. Because stock shortages are really bad right now. Shipping is really expensive, and price hikes are on the way. Order it today. Order it today. Pre-order it today. Get it ordered. Get your order in. And if they cancel the order in 6 months for some reason, well, then you got your order in while the price was low. Okay? We don't control the prices. Believe me, if we did, it would be a very different situation, but we'd also be broke. So this plane is awesome. The Habu, let's pick it up and talk about it for a minute. What are the strengths of this plane compared to the 70 millimeter F-16? I'm not even going to compare this to the 80 millimeter F-16 because it's not even a comparison. First of all, the price point's huge difference. Second of all, it's a lot harder to fly. It's a lot harder to land. The F-16 is not, let me rephrase that. Most jets are not hard to fly. They're hard to land because you have to necessarily flare. Secondly, people are going to say, if I don't point out some complaints about models, that I'm like somehow covering for Horizon. Okay, I don't cover for Horizon or anybody else. See this? Why can we not get our strap points in the right place, Horizon? Folks, why? I'll tell you why on this plane. Because this is a 4S or 6S compatible. But put another strap then. Also, get the receiver back. Give us more room. Let us have some extra adjustability. Because I am half an inch away on a 4,000 and on a 5,000. By the way, 5,000 fits great. It flies great. You can get it down. It's a little bit harder on the landing because you do have to push it down a little bit, or you have to take a little bit more bouncing when you hit. Also, because the nature of the length of the ESC line, which by the way, Horizon, good job. Way better than it was on the F-1680. And what was the other one? The 90 millimeter. The 90 millimeter Viper is like super short. Or wait, what am I thinking of? There was a plane that came out recently and I can't even remember. It's really short. It barely protrudes from the plane. I've been very happy with getting that in, but I've not been very happy with this bulge that you'll get if your battery leads are not exactly right. You guys see the bulge here? Okay, so a couple of minor complaints, things that you could work out, not a big deal. The looks on this plane have always been kind of a sticking point for me compared to the F-16. F-16 is just absolutely gorgeous. Other than the nose wheel going back and sticking out under the bottom of the line, you don't really notice it while you're flying. To be honest, these gear, you don't notice them while you're flying either, which is really weird to me because like I'm big on retracts, especially on jets, especially a 6S jet. But here's the big caveat to all those things I just said. I just gave you like 3 complaints. They're all minor, but they are complaints. The big caveat to that is this thing is landable. My first landing was terrible on this plane. I had my thrust reverse on, I did my pilot fatigue, and I bounced it hard. Boom, boom, boom. I think it was 4 bounces. The gear, they didn't even show any signs of wear and tear. That is amazing. Grass hops on these gear are gonna be tough because your ground clearance is clear. Look at this. It's not that much ground clearance. Now, the landing gear need to be short because otherwise it'll look ugly. But look how tall this is, okay? You're in the grass, guys.
Yeah.
Okay? So a couple of different concerns / input for you guys to make good decisions. That's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC, is we take a very complex issue and we try to dumb it down to where everybody can kind of draw some information from it and make good decisions on purchasing. We want you to buy this stuff from our links, but we don't care if you buy this or the F-1670 or if you buy some other awesome plane that's really fast, it's really fun and really exciting. We've been very happy with this Habu. For what it is, in my opinion, the Habu STS bind and fly. It might as well be the same thing. The fact that this takes 6S is amazing. Remember, The Habu STS is a 3S or 4S capable, okay? But it is otherwise the same airframe. The 3S is a big deal because you can get a ready to fly and you could be flying a jet on your own for your first plane. Now, I wouldn't recommend it necessarily as your first plane. I think it's probably for those that are a little bit more naturally good at flying, people that have some simulator experience, or kids that are used to playing video games and they're very good with that sort of thing. You know, if you're 75 years old, you've been flying for your whole life, it doesn't matter. But if you're 75 years old and you're trying to get into a plane, I would get something that flies slower because jets get away from you faster. They're a little bit more expensive to get into. And when you crash, sometimes it's pretty drastic. So anyway, just a couple of thoughts. Also, I feel like this thing is just a rock solid airframe. It just holds together really nicely. I also think the nose is going to be a problem for some new pilots because they're going to tend to break it off. It's very easy to glue a nose back on. Don't make that your decision making. Also, you've got plenty of room to get the battery back. The F-1670, it's harder to get that CG where you want it if you're using a 5006S. I feel like you almost need to just cram it all the way into the receiver, and the receiver antenna comes out like this, and it's pretty much your stop point. So I don't like that because it makes a pinch point on the coax cable that goes out on the antenna, and you're likely to cut it. So be careful with that if you get the F-1670. Also, the F-1670 is just so beautiful. I love the looks of this plane. Excuse me, I don't love the looks of this plane, but I love the looks of the F-1670. I'm also an F-16 fan. So when juxtaposing them to one another, remember, sometimes you're making a decision based on two planes that you both want, but one's out of stock. So order the one that's in stock. And the reason I come back to that is that things are going to be out of stock. All right, so I don't want to make this too long, but yeah, the Habu is great. It's everything you would expect it to be. It is just like what you expect because you've already seen the STS. The difference is it's blazing fast. It's got almost, I would say that it is unlimited, true unlimited vertical. Depending on if you're at altitude. I suppose if you were in a really high altitude area, it might be just a little bit below unlimited vertical. It'll pretty much hover on your hand. Not quite as good as the A10. The A10 was maybe 5% better at that. So you were holding that gun on the end of that A10 and it would hover, which is cool. In terms of tight environments, this does land a little bit harder than the STS because it's a little bit heavier. It's the same wing loading, except you've got more weight. Well, excuse me, it's not the same wing loading because you do have more weight. On the 6S configuration, it is necessarily heavier. So you have to keep that in mind. It does take a little bit longer to stop, but you have thrust reverse. So with thrust reverse, you can shorten the landings. I guarantee I could get this thing down landing. I don't know about the 37-foot approach. We've done that on some planes. That'd be really cool. We could probably do a cross though, you know, like from here to here. In the right conditions, if it was maybe a little bit of wind coming up the hill there, and then also if we had, you know, the lighter pack. You can't do this on a 3200 6S according to the manual. But to be honest with you, you've got a lot of leeway to move forward. So if you go smaller in your battery, you got a lot of adjustability. So you may be able to fly this on 4S. I'm not sure it's going to do it on a 3S because I think they have configured the ESC and motor accordingly. Okay, so if you're trying to use your 3S pack and you had the STS before, I'm not going to tell you that you should do that. I'm not even going to fly this on 4S. I'm going to fly it on 6S, but my son might fly it on 4S. So very happy. It hits on all the points that Horizon was trying to hit with this jet. Complaints, you've already heard them, but my number one complaint is if you're going for a jet that will land a lot easier than the F-16, this is your jet. But can you give up the looks? Because the F-16 looks so good. And the price point's so similar. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to diminish, I don't want to take anything away from this plane because looks are so subjective. But let's be honest, the original Habu with the flat wing and the more, you know, stretched out, thinner cord, and, you know, it was a more pretty plane, but this one flies a lot easier, and that's a big deal. Plus the wheels are far apart, so you don't ever get that nose thing where when you're trying to slow down, it's tipping over like this. This thing, you know, it's rock solid once you get it on the ground. It sits low and it doesn't tip. The F-16 is about the opposite you can get because they're very close and they're very narrow. And so it wants to tip and it's going to discourage a lot of pilots. So anyway, also, this could almost be a second plane. Like if you're really good on a Carbon Cub 1.3, the Carbon Cub S2, you could almost jump straight to this. That's why I really like it, because if you're just gonna make your investment, and this is what I keep telling people, if you're flying right now and you know you've got the bug and you're gonna be in it for a while, stop wasting your money on ready to flies and just get a programmable computerized transmitter. The NX8 is a great place to start. You could do the NX6, but I just feel like there's not a big enough price difference to justify it. Just get this. Yep. If you can't get that, then I would say the NX10 is just such a big price jump. Most people don't need those extra 2 channels. I rarely use them. I think I've done 10 channels maybe once, and I've done 9 channels maybe 3 times out of hundreds of planes. So the NX8 is gonna, by far, be the best choice. So, like I said, if you're just getting into the hobby, you're not sure you've got the bug yet, get the ready to fly, then you can save a couple of bucks. But remember, every time you buy a ready to fly, you waste money on the ready to fly equipment. Plus, you're gonna get the smallest battery, you're gonna get the cheapest charger that's available, when really, to be honest, for about $1,000, you can have a nice transmitter, you can have a really nice charger, like the best one on the market right now from Spectrum, and dual channel, tons of wattage. You can charge all the way up to 6S, which is gonna be plenty for a long time. You can do all the smart programming. You can get the XBC battery checker, and you can get a few batteries, and you can be set. And then when a new bind and fly comes out and it's $400, you don't have to feel like you're breaking the bank, because 400 is a lot easier to swallow than 1,000, because people ask all the time. So that all being said, there's tons of good choices out there right now, and that's why we do these videos, so that you can help to sift through the choices. And those choices are gonna be narrowed drastically right now by stock issues. So I would order if you want it right now, and back order if you want it right now, because then that's gonna protect the price for you. So anyway, any thoughts, Cam Crew?
Well, I was just gonna say, we have 3 other flights that we'll probably put after this, and then, but that shows the elevator correction that you made.
Yeah, we'll show, actually,
you mentioned that.
taking this off, you have to move the rudder. There's one more screw, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll actually show how we did it, because it was super easy. But really, in our Unbox build radio setup, ordinarily we would show that, but we didn't know about it yet. Right. So we're gonna show the wrong setup in that, because we pretty much just put it together and do it by the book. So my recommendation is definitely check out that. That's at the end of the flight number 1. So this is flight 4 that you're seeing first. It's quite windy, but the lighting is really good. And we wanted to just be able to touch on all those things in our verbal cues. So,
and then flight 3 was the 5,000.
Yeah, we did 5,000 6S 30C. That's a 30C. By the way, this is a 50C, full disclosure. We aren't trying to pull a fast one. It's just that we happen to not have 30Cs in the 4,000. I don't know why that is. Maybe they're out of stock when we had those since. So sure. Anyway, the point is 30C did fine. We had no problems. In fact, we probably had the best performance on the 5,000 30C, I think, of all of them. Also, the wind this morning is way stronger than I thought it was. It's deceiving in the morning for some reason. I don't know if the windsock gets in the wrong angle and it just kind of gets trapped. But about an hour ago when we started getting ready for this, the windsock was just limp. So it's so frustrating when it kicks up like that. Anyway, guys, you know what to do. Check the link in the video description below. You can support us with PayPal, Patreon, or you can buy the planes. We think the best way is to buy the planes, because then everybody's happy. We get a small commission. It builds clout with these manufacturers. Yes, we work with a lot more than just this manufacturer, but the idea is, you know, that we're going to tell you the truth, even if we worked with, you know, one manufacturer. So the point is, we want you to be happy, and they do too, really. So if they make something, it flops, you're going to give them feedback by not buying. I think what you need to do is buy this, though, because it's a good plane. You'll like it. You'll enjoy it. It's a good intermediary. I think it's a better intermediary than the 6S 7000, the 6S 70 millimeter F-16. I hate to break it, because it's so much cooler looking, in my personal opinion, but this plane's gonna fly better for you, and you're gonna have a better luck with it. So anyway, do this, then do that. Stay tuned, more to come. YouTube, we get a box. It's huge. We're gonna open it right now. You've already seen it, because we always put the flights at the beginning. So we are quite excited to share this. Got a packing list here. And this is new and exciting. So we're excited to bring it to you. I'm just gonna try to get, this is a huge box, by the way.
Gigantic.
Awesome, awesome. Oh, it's a Super Sport. It's a Habu Super Sport. It's a sport jet for intermediate to experienced pilots. So whatever that exactly means. That was terrible. So everybody, you've seen the Habu before. The Habu STS is a safe, equipped plane. This is the Super Sport. So what exactly does that mean? I believe it just means that it's more powerful. It's 4 to 6S compatible, which is very cool because many of you were asking, can I make my Habu a 6S? And I'm like, why would you want to do that? The 4S is so invigorating because honestly, it's a great flying plane, but it's a little bit slow. So this is going to take us, kick it up another notch to 6S, which is super exciting, but keeping the awesome flight performance and also keeping it very simple. But does that say avian or just smart?
Over here it says 70 amp smart light ESC.
I don't know what that means.
We're gonna
so
find out.
we're gonna find out. But either way, guys, come along for the ride. We're gonna unbox this thing, do the radio setup like always, and then we are gonna continue onward. So, arguably, the Habu STS is one of the best and easiest flying planes that you can buy that is also an EDF. It is one of the only EDFs I recommend as a first plane, and it is truly a good plane. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what's gonna happen is I think this is gonna fill the gap for people who want a Habu in a plug and fly. Because the Habu was never offered in plug and fly, which I thought was stupid, because it was only ready to fly it was only ready to fly and plug and fly. This is a bind and fly, which is what I thought they should offer it anyway, because the Habu was such a good plane that this is gonna give you that option now. It's obviously got a different paint or trim livery on it. And so we're gonna see what this looks like here in just a second. It's obviously still 70 millimeter EDF, which is cool. But it's 6S capable, which is kind of crazy. This is actually called the Habu STS2, according to this molding. No,
Or
this one's the
Habu
3. So it's one of those things. All right, so here we go. So we pull this out. First thing I noticed, it is extremely light. Feel this, you won't believe it.
That's nuts.
That's like nothing.
I know.
That is so cool.
That's
I mean, it's
crazy.
like, it's nothing, but feel how strong it is. I thought it'd be weak here, but it's not. It's like super strong. So that's really cool. I love the decals, really pretty nice. I like that that's matte. I wish this was matte, but that's paint. That's paint, right? Or is that a decal? No, that's a
paint.
decal.
The yellow's a decal.
This is paint, which is nice. Look how nice it is too. It's got a thick coat on it. So then underneath we've got snap-on gear, puke, ailerons, no flaps. No flaps. Where are the flaps? This is the landing aid sensor. There's a vent here. Yep, a vent that's gonna bring in air exchange. Then a couple of screw holes. So it looks like the same exact wing. Very thick cord, look at that. The cord is this way, but look how tall that is too. So we'll see. I'm still not sure. Like for me, the jury's out on this thing. And I know you guys are like, but you just flew it, Brian. Yeah, we have to build it first, actually. So the truth is, when we do these unboxes, I kind of have to guess what I'm gonna like about it. And so we don't mean to mislead, but it's like we just don't know. We haven't flown it yet. I did fly the other one. Okay, so that pilot looks good. And look, they have a decal on there. I would say that pilot's good. It looks good. I mean, it's not anything like to write home about, but it also doesn't look bad at all. No. So I'm very happy with that. I definitely have expressed some of my concerns about the looks of the Habu in the past. And that's partly because of the nature of the shape and looks of the Habu. The old Habus, so this plane was designed, it was redesigned to be easier to fly and to be able to land really slow. And it worked. But it came at the expense of other principal features. which I'm sure will be mentioned in the comments. I'm just gonna let you guys mention them.
But that's a personal
It's
opinion.
a preference thing. So, man, there's lots of foam to protect foam on this. I do like the colors on this really nicely.
Me too.
This gray and yellow is cool. I love yellow planes. It's so weird because like we almost never see yellow planes. Okay, so this feels 13 gram servo, 13 gram servo. So this must be for the rudder. Split elevator controls. I never did like that design, but it looks like they've done a nice job on this, because there is adjustment if it's imperfect. That's pretty cool. And this wing is so thin, you can't put a regular servo in there. So it makes sense that they have to hide it in the tail, although it does make for quite a complicated tail. Very clearly labeled, but mine, oh, I thought they were stuck, but ooh, gross, look at that. Laid into the foam, come on, man. Should put some, and that's got anhedral on it, and then we have dihedral up here, which is a classic Habu look. Actually, the Habu was flat and then anhedral on the tail feathers. So, that's the tail. I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way to get this out. There's kind of tape. I think this is just an early sample issue here, guys, but sometimes when we get these early samples, we do run into sometimes some differences in packaging, mostly because they're just doing like 5 or 6 on a run. Okay, look at this, guys. Tape reinforced, pinch hinge, very robust, reinforced, very strong.
Is that plastic on the bottom?
Yeah, that's plastic, but that's the way they did the other one too. There's a big cavity here, and that allows you to pass this over the top like that. But of course, the wires are gonna pass through here. Very disappointed to see that, but it's really not gonna end up being a big deal. You won't even hardly notice. I could touch it with a dark marker and it would cover that up. But anyway, getting back to the point, sometimes we get early samples like this for pre-release items. There'll be some packaging issues here and there that you guys won't necessarily experience. I don't know if that might be a pre-release sort of issue. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff in here. Hey, look at that, that's a thrust tube. Oh. Nice. Okay, so I remember it's all coming back when we built it. Yeah, it is. Thrust tube, just like this. So that's gonna go once we get everything together. And then we have, also in this bag, we have some landing gear. It's the landing gear, like the tail wheel on the Carbon Z Cessna 150. It's just the tire and wheel combination, not the actual assembly. What is this? What is this? Oh, it's the steerable nose gear. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Look at that, guys. Really simple. It's a 13 gram servo again. It is a Metal Gear servo. Was it not steerable on the other one? I don't remember having to put this in, but it's been a while since we did this. Oh, it's removable. So you can take it off for belly landings. That makes sense. I just connected the dots in my brain. Should have probably not had so much trouble with that. Holy cow, look at this beautiful fan. Wow. That is gonna sound so sweet. Oh, yes. Quick plug here. Look at that. It's shaped so that it receives the screw and centers it. That is so cool. It says Avian Smart ESC. Does it? Yeah, but I don't know if that means we can do thrust reverse. We are definitely gonna be reversing the thrust if we can. Okay, so, ooh, tough call now. Ooh, wow. Do we assemble it with the wheel? I don't know. AR631, very nice. So that means with the 631, and if it's got an Avian ESC, we should for sure get feedback on our cell voltages, which is really nice. The telemetry is super nice when you have an Avian ESC and a 631 or a 630 or a 637T or a 637TA. So again, this is bind and fly. The 630 doesn't have the barometer, but it has what they call flyby telemetry, meaning when you're in closer proximity, you're gonna get everything that you would ordinarily get. And if you have the full range telemetry, like on the Air 637 or 637T or TA, then you will get full range. So you'll see telemetry data from further away. Honestly, it's not a big deal for us because we don't really get that far away, partly because of filming and then partly because of the environment with which we film. So you guys may not have that same circumstance. If you fly at some of these fields, goodness gracious, you stand on the runway and you're further away than I ever get. So there's really good packaging. Horizon does an awesome job on packaging. And it seems like kind of a minor issue, but you guys, this stuff comes from halfway across the planet and we almost never have damage. And by the way, when we get early releases, they get shipped ground a lot more than you guys will. So there's more potential for damage and we just like never see it. Okay, so yeah, like this is probably the worst shipping damage we've had, and that was actually just a mistake. Yeah. Okay, so I was a little bit concerned when I started seeing this come out of the box for piece count, but look at that. That's really reasonable. What?
I don't have a manual.
Oh, really? Uh-oh, did they forget?
Is it on the bottom? There
yes.
It's where it belongs.
And it's flat. Thank you for listening, Horizon. I'm sure it was only because of me and not because of the other thousands of people that get annoyed by that. We hate when manuals are folded here on Brian Phillips RC.
We also film our manuals, so that makes it challenging.
Yeah, right. If you're not filming your manuals, you may not have that problem or predisposition to be annoyed by that. But also, I keep every manual that we get, which is pretty stupid because you can like literally download the manuals and it's not a big deal. So we might take a quick second, we'll get things picked up and start the assembly. All right, so we're gonna build this Habu SS. We just have a couple of Chinese screwdriver, number 2 screwdriver. And then one thing we opened up when we were unboxing this that we didn't mention because it was kind of covered up in the manual is that it came with a super thick, super nice sticker, which is pretty cool. So I like it. We'll find a place to put it, but for now we're just gonna get it out of the way. We just didn't want to forget to mention it. Okay, so the manual suggests putting the wing on first. So that's what we're gonna do. By the way, this bind plug does not need to be used. You can if you want, and it tells you how to do it, or you can just use this button, which is what we're gonna use, okay? So I'm just gonna take that out now. That's good for another project. I'm still surprised that they give us those things because really, they're not necessary. So I think it's a little strange that they give us that. Okay, so we got the plane upside down using this plane stand. This has a plug on it, so it makes it really easy to put on and off. Yes, you can do that with the gear installed, by the way. Okay, so I'm just gonna plop this down on here. I think it just goes straight, guys. You don't tip it in like most wings, okay? Did that snap? Oh, by the way, look, this is the landing. This isn't actually the sensor, but this is where your landing aid sensor would go. And I think it goes, yeah, it goes this way. And I'm still not sure how that's gonna work. If you're doing belly landings, I don't think that's gonna work very good because look where it is and look at the direction it is. It seems to me like that is backward from what it should be. Because when you come into land, if you're belly landing, that thing's gonna wanna get yanked out. So I really don't understand, but that is definitely the way they molded it. You see this? The clip is favored toward the front as opposed to being favored toward the back. And you can see this clip is favored toward what would be the front as opposed to the back. So I'm really baffled by that. Unless this is screwed in wrong and you can unscrew these 4 screws and flip that assembly around, then it would go like this, you know? So it would just be along the belly and the grass and stuff would go like that. So let's just check that out because these are the types of things that you come to Brian Phillips RC for. Tedious, obnoxious things that you shouldn't have to figure out, but we figure out and then we share our experience with you. So I'm just gonna see how this is just a blank, by the way. So if you have the actual sensor would not be necessarily as easy to take apart. But you see that? Looks like those holes line up either way. Yeah. So I'm gonna put mine like that, and then it's not gonna be a problem. Okay, so I flipped it. That worked out pretty easy, actually. So I don't know if this was assembled wrong, or I kind of remember it being kind of backward on the last one, don't you?
I know it was awkward. So it could have been.
Well, and I don't know how that thing works if it's ultrasonic, because it's a sensor that points at the ground and it helps to detect the difference. Well, not the difference, but the presence of the ground as you approach.
Oh.
I never used it. I don't believe in it. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to encourage you to use it. If you want to use it, go for it. But I don't think it's necessary. I think it's going to detract from what we're trying to do in the hobby, which is to teach you how to fly. See that? Now it's on the front. Now watch this. I don't ordinarily do mods on early releases, but I just feel like that could have been an easy mistake. And feel how that, if you belly land this sucker, it's going to be a lot better that way.
Looks like it makes more sense.
So as far as I'm concerned, that's the right way. Okay. 2 of these long bolts.
And 2 of the short ones.
So we need a total of 2 and 2. Okay.
Yep.
But there's only, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, guys.
Yes.
So where do the long ones go?
Well, if you look, so this
looks
is
like the long
short.
ones are here. Okay, so long's in the middle, short's on the front and back. Okay. Because yeah, they have a longer housing.
Yep.
Okay. So 1, 2. It's like the anti-dynam. It's so easy. It's already like half screwed in, you know? That's crazy. And I'm using a number 2 screwdriver.
And
listen. You hear that noise? That means we're getting purchase.
Yeah.
And we're like at the bottom of the hole. So what I'd recommend is get this started, okay? You see how easy that is? So if you have to do this at the field, it's gonna be extremely fast. Look at this. See how tight that seam is? I thought maybe we had some issue with that on the first one. By the way, this whole plane is just extremely light. Light planes fly good, generally speaking. If they're balanced, they fly good. And light wings with really thick wing cords usually have a ton of lift. And so, I don't know. I'm excited to see it fly. And also, if you take off the landing gear from the Habu, it's a lot better looking plane. So, we'll see. So, the 2 short ones, front and back. That is awesome. That is awesome how easy that is. It's like the way you expect it to be, but you sort of kind of tolerate a little bit with foam planes because it's like, you know, it's foam after all. But then I come back to, it's foam. You literally made a mold and filled it. Why can't you make stuff fit together better? And Horizon is one of the few brands that really does. FMS does a good job. You know, we've had really good luck with X-Fly so far. They're new, but as far as I can tell, that's really nice. Look at the tight seam here. I like that. That's beautiful. So that looks pretty sweet. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now what's next? Tail?
Nose gear installation.
Nose gear? Why?
You just said what's next.
Is that what the book recommends?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna put the tail on then.
Okay.
I want the wings on first. Okay, so these 2 go in, and then you roll it in like this. See this? Rudder, elevator. Guys, look how easy this is. This is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna take this and flatten my cable.
Come over here so I can see what you're doing.
I'm gonna flatten my cable like this, and they have a label that says S on the right, so it needs to be like this. This is rudder. Okay, so it's the top one. And I'm just holding the plane, and then I'm snapping it in. Then elevator with signal to the right. Okay. Signal is the orange, brown is the ground, and then plus is in the middle, which is red. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna take this label, I'm just gonna walk it back. You see how I did that? I'm gonna do the same with this one so it doesn't pop out, cause an ugly spot, okay? So there's that and there's that. Now I'm gonna put these about halfway, just kind of wrap them under, and then I'm gonna take the slack and use that slack to hold it down. Now I'm gonna study the way that this goes on. This is of course the vertical stabilizer and the rudder. So the pinch hinged rudder, very sturdy. There must be a carbon fiber spar. I can't see because this is opaque paint. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll this in, and you can see there's nothing that protrudes down. So these wires won't be impeding this at all. Okay, so I'm just rolling it in. Oh, that was so easy. Are you kidding me? That's so easy.
Wow.
And then I can just push this out of the way and get right to the hole. Do you remember what size these are? There's two sizes. Let's show the people.
They're the bag of where there's less. These are for the nose gear, so these are for the tail.
Okay. Oh wait, do I need to be putting the thrust tube on first, or does it matter?
No, it says thrust tube.
How many do I need? 3? 1, 2, 3.
And then one in the back.
How many do I, oh, do I need to screw on that first? No, the screws go through the top. I'm just saying, how many do I need? Screws, there's 3.
This is this G, which is the smaller size in the very back.
Oh, so I need 2 of the bigger size up front.
Wait, they're labeled the same measurement.
Okay, whatever. So they're the same. All right, whatever. I'm just gonna put them all on the same. They fit. They fit. Horizon, fix your manual. Thank you. Okay, so that's there. Chinese screwdriver. Here we go. To be honest, I still am baffled by the fact that manuals don't say the right hardware.
Or that the bags aren't labeled.
I was like, how hard is it to get that step right? I don't understand. And maybe it's a lot harder than it actually looks. I don't know. I'm not going to defend that, that's for sure. Okay, so this, I'm just going to support underneath the exhaust port because it's too hard to get your hand in the top alone. I do feel like, yeah, we need 2 long ones here and here. Was there a 3rd screw under there? Or was there just 2? Because I feel like this attaches. Oh no, it's pinned up front and screwed down back.
It's screwed in the back.
Yep. Okay, so folks, not that it really matters in this application, but I sort of did those screws out of the order. These 2 were supposed to be screwed in first. My apologies for that. In disparity, we were still trying to figure out what screws go where. Okay, so just so you guys can see, this is, when we built the, similar to Habu, in the Rhinum brand, the other brand that rhymes with Rhinum, we did not have this lock.
No.
Because that build sucked. It's called the Ironic. I think that's, oh wait, no, that's the glider.
It's the other space shooting thing, right? I think. There's nothing that it rhymes with.
What's it called?
Isn't it the Meteor?
The Meteor? Are we still filming?
Yeah.
Oh, the Meteor? Okay. Well, anyway, the one that looks like the one that is made by Dynam. It's called the Meteor. It did not go together.
They all run together.
It did not go together quite this smooth.
No.
Like not even close. Like we would have still been swearing while opening the box. Okay, so you see this? Okay. Just stick that in the thing. And there's that. Okay.
Is there like an up and down on that?
I don't know. We discussed that last time. I don't
did?
remember. There is kind of like a notch.
Oh,
see? There you go. Then we have to tape this from the inside or the outside?
I don't know.
I mean, this plane's like practically built.
I know, it is.
I mean, we got the nose gear to hook up.
What are we gonna do for the next 3 hours?
So hold on, camera crew. I need to know where this tape goes. This tape is provided, folks.
Yes.
So you don't have to provide your own tape, but they do provide the tape. Where do they suggest it goes? On the outside.
With included tape.
Okay, so they say to put this on the outside. You'll note that I'm just kind of laying it all over the wing. This stuff is a bit of a pain to work with because it's not always split, and again, this one's not split. But if you are reattaching this for some reason, like after a crash or something, just use regular tape. I can say with some impunity, if you do this and you have to peel that tape, if you get it wrong, it will probably take off the finish on the foam. So just be prepared to try your best to get it right. Now I'm gonna get scissors and show you a trick. Show them an up close shot of the way I put that tape on there and how stupid it looks because I screwed up.
Oh.
You see what I did wrong?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong?
You weren't over, you should have been further over to the left, right?
Yeah, I should have been
that it
over to the left, or if you scooch over a little bit, I'll show the people at home what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take and score the tape at the top, like this. I'm just scoring it, and then I'm just gonna walk it down. You could use an X-Acto knife as well, but you see I followed it with my fingernail, and then that gave me a good purchase. I would like to say that that would have taped down better, but I didn't get lucky. It's not that big a deal. There's a bunch of these pieces though.
Yeah.
So that's good, that's promising. And it is actually really easy to get the backing off. Sometimes we have a lot of trouble with this stuff, but this time it's going really easy. I don't know why. I don't know why this is different than usual. So I'm gonna do it exactly the same wrong way so that it matches. I'm gonna push this in with my fingernail and walk it up. Then see, I can get my blade in there easier on this side because I'm right-handed, okay? See, I just cut it at the top and then push it down. It makes a perfect seam then. Well, when I say perfect, I mean imperfect, but more perfecter than it would have been.
So you did that on purpose so you could show them,
Yeah.
show them how to do it.
Yeah, it's all planned out. I mean, it's in my
Right.
notes over there. The notes that we took
Notes in
about the assembly.
Garbage.
Yeah, there's no notes. All right, so we're gonna flip this after I get this. Oh, it's stuck to my finger.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if it sticks to your finger too much, you might want to throw that piece away because it's gonna have oil on it.
Are you gonna use all the pieces?
I don't know, I'm just gonna, yeah, I guess. Excuse me. So we're just gonna go underneath the horizontal stabilizer and elevator and stick this down. You know, some of these assemblies, I kind of cringe to film some of these steps because they're just so simple. And to be honest, make no mistake, there's a lot of simple steps on this build. So please don't take offense if we show it. We're trying to help people that aren't familiar with the hobby get up to speed. And while you might find it to be a little bit elementary, remember, you were new at 1.2 and we're trying to bring people up to speed. That's why God made a fast forward button.
I don't have any good stories today.
Oh, you want a story?
Well, I don't know. I mean, taping is pretty easy.
I don't have any good stories right now. There are no good stories. I'm out of stories.
You don't ever like check weird objects on different parts of a floor and they don't work, but the one next to it does.
What are you talking about?
What you did today.
What did I do?
This scale that you checked today. Was that today?
What scale did I check today?
The
Oh, you're
wrestling
talking about the
scale.
wrestling scale?
Don't say it like that.
Wrestling scale. Yeah, so as part of my job responsibilities, I go and check wrestling scales. And, you know, as with most school-related projects, you know, it's not exactly a big moneymaker for us. We do it to help support the local schools and things. And so, I mean, we still charge, obviously. It's, you know, that's just what you do. You have to make some money. But also then that keeps the really, really difficult schools out of the ranking for service. But anyway, yeah, so we ran into some problems with the scale because the floor was, I mean, I was walking to the room from 15 feet away and it was making the scale change its weight value. And I'm like, how can this happen? So yeah, sorry, I don't want to tell that story
You run into all sorts of weird stuff.
publicly. I don't want to defame a wonderful company that makes wrestling scales. They're really terrible to work on. Okay, so we have that thrust tube tape. That was pretty unconsequential.
Show them the fan from this end.
You can?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's cool. I can see all the way through.
Yeah.
And guys, the inlets on this are really cool too. Hey, by the way, when there's no flaps, there is one big advantage to that. There's somewhere to grab it.
It's easy to hold.
But that's where the positive ends. Okay, so how does this go on? You guys might be curious to know that. If you haven't seen the original STS versus the SS. So I'm sure nobody's gonna be confused by the names on this either, because it's the Habu STS originally. Ooh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Why did that go in so bad?
What's in there?
There's crap in the way. I think the ESC must have pulled back. But then there's this like weird black cable. What the heck is that thing? I don't know what that is. I'm gonna push it down right now. I'm gonna push the ESC back too. There's like some weird black cable in there. I don't even know what it is. Probably like a landing aid sensor cable or some weird thing. But you see, there's one more cable that comes up and I don't even know what that is. So I'm just gonna push that down. But you see what I'm struggling with? Look. Mm-hmm. There it goes. It goes now. So now look at this. See? Snap, release, snap, release. Historically, Horizon has made a couple of different planes that have canopies that don't fit real good. I'm trying to think of the name. Do you remember what I'm thinking of? It was a 1.5 meter. It was blue and white, and Esteban has it, so it's destroyed, but it still flies. And he has like a big blue light on one side, and it's like super distracting.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good though.
It does.
Just imagine there is the cable hanging out the bottom.
Well, we can't see it now. It's perfect.
Yeah, I know.
Looks amazing.
Isn't that cool?
That's pretty cool looking.
I think it looks sweet. I think the scale appearance, and when I say scale, I mean the pseudo scale appearance is a lot better on that without the landing gear. I mean, just jets with landing gear sticking down fixed gear are so uggo. But at the same time, I can say this. These things, guys, that was like the easiest build ever. Look how easy that was. I bet it's not very fun to take that out. Do you want to take them out? When
No.
You don't want to take those out?
I'm gonna let you do that.
That's good. That means there's going to be some play. Okay, we're going to show you how to put this in, and yes, because I am addicted to it, I'm going to go wheels up, wheels down. So brown to brown, guys. Orange to orange. Red's in the middle, so it's, I mean, you get that right either way.
Yep.
Just so you guys know, brown is ground, red is power, positive DC voltage, brown is signal ground, and return voltage for the DC circuit or minus. And then this is signal, orange, okay? Sometimes it's described as yellow. See that, how we're on the inside hole on there? If this doesn't have enough authority for steering, you can bring that out. It's probably just gonna make it harder to ground handle if you go too much. But this will be very serviceable, so I'm quite excited about that. All right, so that falls down in there, no problem. And then there's 475 screws to put in.
8.
Oh, there's 8?
Yes.
That's less than I said. Okay, you'll note that there's 1 screw loose. That can go back here in this bag.
Okay.
So we are gonna get the smallest screw. Why did they have this mislabeled? It was otherwise so easy. C and C. Same thing.
Same thing.
Or G and G, I don't care.
Well, G, I think, is supposed to be those little ones.
Like
I
this?
don't want to turn back a page because you got your screws out.
Oh, okay.
Where's, oh, there's the control.
So I'm just gonna remind you guys, this is still got safe and AS3X. So it's got all the features that you really need if you're trying to learn to fly. The difference between this and the regular Habu is that you can also plop a 6S pack in there. Now it says 4 to 6, not 3 to 6, because the original Habu STS was a 3 or 6. So it comes equipped in the ready to fly with a 3S pack. So just be aware, I think it's 3S 3200, right? I believe it's 3200. It might be 2200, but that thing flew forever. And it just, the Habu is so easy to fly. I mean, my son flies it and he does just fine. And my son is a pretty decent pilot. I would say he's flown the Carbon Z Cub and he's flown, what other planes? The Mini Apprentice, the Apprentice. He's flown a bunch of the little E-Sheen ones and the X-Fly ones.
T-28 is one of his favorites.
Little T-28. Yep, because you know, there are certain times when those little planes really make sense, and it just kind of depends on your skill set and your tolerance for crash damage. And I think for my son, it's easier because he doesn't feel bad like he's put something on my plate that I can't handle with a big repair. And I kind of wish I could remind him, like, hey, there's like 197 other planes over here, so.
Well, and he learned really on the Aero Scout, the big Aero Scout.
Yeah.
And he's learning to kind of fix that. Yeah, the Sport Cub.
And then also the simulator. He does the real Flight 9.5. So it's kind of like a multifaceted approach. And it does help if you have a lot of planes, it's easier to fly because you don't feel that insane stress of crashing. And I can tell you this from experience. When you first start flying, you think, you know what, I don't need 6 or 7 planes or 14 planes or 32 planes or 50 or 100 planes until you do.
Heard that one before.
Yeah. So, in our experience, the Habu has been quite easy to land. It's been quite easy to fly. It's been quite easy to take off. But just keep in mind, if you're a new pilot, the biggest and hardest thing to learn is just simple orientation. But letting go of the sticks, the plane will self-right. If you're in safe mode, safe stands for sensor-aided flight envelope. And then AS3X is the stabilizer by which everything is generated for safe, okay? So AS3X stands for Artificial 3-Axis Stabilizer, and I always say that in the wrong order, but it's the correct information. AS3X, Artificial Stabilization 3-Axis, and I always say it backward, but it doesn't matter, it's the correct words. What that means is stabilizers, okay, so let's take a look at this. That's pretty sweet. The gear are a little bit shorter. That makes a big difference. In terms of looks. It still plops back like most jets. You see that F-16 on the table?
Yep.
That's another first 6S plane, okay? So just to be clear, this plane will be a million times easier to fly than this plane, in my expectation. I haven't flown this yet, so I'm just going from experience with having flown the STS version, which is red and gray. Is there blue in it?
No, I think it's red.
It's
and
predominantly
gray and
red and white. Yeah, so it looks otherwise exactly the
Very
same.
similar. Yep.
Yep. You'll note that we haven't put the linkage on the rudder yet, so we got to do that real quick. Might as well get that out of the way. But I love that it sits low. That was one of the things. The trainer was a little bit taller. Okay, so the way these things work is you just have to brace this end, and then you can twist this in or out depending on how you want it to go. What did the manual suggest?
Down there at the very bottom.
Here it is. So it goes to the outside hole and the outside hole. Okay? So outside to outside. So this meaning the outside hole on the linkage or on the control horn from the servo to the outside hole here when centered. So you can grab right here and it'll center it. And then all you have to do is just kind of grab this and just spin it in until you get alignment. See, I'm just testing to see when it's going to line up with those holes. Probably another half turn, maybe another half again. Once you get down to the bottom, to the very end of the range, you just kind of got to refine it real carefully. That's probably about right. So this is mechanically centering it. Yeah, I need to actually go out a little bit more. And the thing is, you won't know if this servo is actually centered, but you can sort of make an assessment, a judgment call of if it's centered, and we're probably going to have to adjust that because I may have moved that just a little bit, you know? And wherever that goes, once the receiver turns on, is your center point. Okay. That's pretty close.
That's pretty close.
Okay, then this just slides through the assembly. You see how easy that was? That just pops up. And then this little rubber thing, that's actually like a fuel tube. Give them a close-up shot of that. That just holds it so it stays closed. Now keep in mind, on a plane, you have primary surfaces, which are elevator, which control the pitch of the plane up or down, rudder, which controls yaw, and then ailerons, which are redundant. There's two of them. They go up and down respectively, and it rolls the plane, okay? So between those three controls, you can control all the axis on this plane. Now this is the SS or the Super Sport, and so it's kind of designed for a more experienced pilot, but we know that there's gonna be a lot of inexperienced pilots that go ahead and get this because they want that extra pizzazz and speed that you're gonna get on a 6S versus a 3 or 4S. Plus, because this thing is a bind and fly basic, meaning it's bind and fly, you bind it to your transmitter, but you don't get the battery. That's what basic means. Back in the day, where does it say bind and fly? What's included? It says on the side. It says bind and fly basic. When they first started coming out with bind and flies, they were bind and fly, not bind and fly basic. Basic just means it doesn't come with a battery, okay? And you get whatever battery you want that's within the range for this plane. It's not like you have to do it as prescribed in the manual with a 3200 6S. What I'd like to do is I'd like to fly it on 5000 6S 30-seat Gen 2. But because I only have a 3200 6S in one Gen 1, which means I got a balance lead and the main discharge lead in an IC5, which mates up perfectly with that. I would like this to be a Gen 2 just because I have one less thing to deal with. But it does recommend 3200 6S, so that's what we're gonna go with off the bat. And then we'll kind of see how it behaves, if the center of gravity works out, and then we can go from there. In fact, let's do that next because the center of gravity is here. Typically, on planes that have gear like this, you're gonna wanna probably flip it upside down, I'm guessing, to check the CG. So we'll mark the top side of the wing. And the way you mark that is in the manual, it suggests 81 millimeters. And that's it. Is it plus or minus?
No, no range. I'll look.
Does it say it in the breakout over on the left?
No. It does say 4S 3200 battery installed all the way forward. And then with a 6S battery strap centered in the battery tray.
Huh. Well, that's weird.
Balance the aircraft inverted. So that answers that question.
Okay, so I was correct. Okay, so 81 millimeters. So I'm gonna go to 81 millimeters. And I like that it's just one number. That's kind of cool. Okay, so it's actually from the leading edge. Okay, so the leading edge would be here at the wing root. Now there's an ambiguous spot here. You can be right where you are. There's an ambiguous kind of curl here. So you just kind of have to gauge. You'll be close enough, I promise. So I'm gonna probably go out just a little teeny bit, and I'm just eyeing where it needs to be, and then I just pierce the foam a little bit. And I'm going out about an inch on both sides, and I just kind of ballpark it. The idea here is I'm gonna make a big ugly mark. You guys probably won't do that, and that's perfectly fine. I just don't like wondering where that mark is, and then I can feel that with my finger, okay? So it's very easy to get in there and reach it. Now, the other thing too I've been doing, and this has been a really helpful tool for me, is when I get ready to mark, I mark where the batteries go. So this is either 4 or 6S 3200. Is that what they recommend? Mm-hmm. So obviously, milliamp hour. Milliamp hour. And they're suggesting that this battery, if you're using the suggested battery, it goes right in the center. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these straps are the middle grade straps. They're not the highest quality and they're not the lowest quality, so you don't have to worry about them ripping in half. But I would be worried about ripping this off of the foam, so be aware of that. They can rip off the foam. And then, yeah, that one's pretty much glued in there, so it's where it's gonna be. Okay, so I'm gonna just lift this lead. You guys may notice that I already cut my warning off of here. That's because like I'm not planning on sticking my fingers into the EDF back here. Like, how long a hand would you have to get it in there? I mean, if you don't want it getting cut off, don't stick it down the hole. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so pull these out of the way. Centered in the opening is what they suggest, okay? So that's what we're gonna run for now until we test it. Then this slides through if you want, but we're not gonna have enough room. So I'm gonna lay that flat, and then I'm gonna pull this somewhat tight. And I'm gonna try to, if you have excess, what you can do is you can fold that around and stick it to itself like that. You have to rotate it to get the right, see? Just like that. And then this has a little bit of a relief, so that's good. Okay, same thing here. I'm gonna test it. Yep, you're never gonna get that through, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do exactly like I did on the front. Man, those Velcros are really sticky. That's good and bad. I'm gonna lay this down like this, pull it real tight and stretch it, and then push it down, okay? Then I can drop that one down a little easier than this one, okay? So that's centered in the tray as prescribed by the manual. If you use the 4S, and you'll slide it all the way up to the bulkhead, which is actually gonna go under here. Okay, so there's your room up here. I don't know if you guys can see if you give them a better shot. See how my pinky's going in there? There's actually room, because that's gonna be a smaller battery, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna simulate attaching this, but I'm not ready to bind yet, so I'm just gonna slide this, see, negative to negative, and then that just kind of simulates the way it's gonna relax into this cavity. Not exactly right, but it's pretty darn close. And as you can see, it's not real easy to make that bend. Well, I guess I'll just plop it down like that, maybe. There we go, that's pretty good. So then this drops in like this, all the way back, snap it in. Okay, so as you can see, it's on its wheels and it's not sitting funny. By the way, this is just a pair of calipers. One of our subscribers sent that. We appreciate you guys. Sometimes they send us tools. Sometimes they send us feedback. We appreciate tools. Okay. Slightly tail heavy, which is exactly what I want in a jet. So Horizon, thank you. It's actually centered in the tray instead of like on this plane on the F-16 where it's sitting all the way back here basically attempting to chop off your antenna. So if you're looking for a great plane, this F-16 is great. If you're looking for a much easier, simpler to fly, very robust plane, again, very good. But there again, if you like the F-16, that's fine. It's no skin off our back. We don't care which planes you pick, but when you want to support us, you can buy things from the channel on the links below. And basically when you buy from the channel, from the links, you will be supporting our channel financially with small contributions from the manufacturer, not from you. That's why that's such a good deal. And that's why we ask, if you want to support us, the easiest way is to just buy the planes you like. If you don't like this plane, but you like that plane, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If you like that one, great. If you like that one, even better. You know, just whatever. We're here to show you what's out there, not to make up your mind for you. But the reason we show you this is wholeheartedly, we want you to know that we're bringing you some of the best stuff on the market today. And Horizon does a great job. E-flite does a great job. Spectrum does a great job. And there are competitors. We are not doing this in an echo chamber. We realize that there's other brands and that they make good stuff too. Not everything that comes out that doesn't have a Horizon label is garbage. But at the same time, at the end of the day, when you look at this plane, just know if it says E-flite on the box, you're getting one of the best options that you can get, especially in a bind and fly. So Megan and I have been very proud to be working with them for a couple of, well, like a year in April. So it's been a little over a year. So we've been very, very happy to bring this stuff to you. We were bringing this stuff to you years ago when we weren't working with Horizon. And we were pointing out the same things that annoyed us then as we are today. But at the same time, we feel like night and day difference between what you're getting today compared to what you were getting 3 years ago even. I mean, it's incredible how much better. Even just small little changes in the way that the AS3X behaves makes a big difference in flight performance. Also, I've become a better pilot, which makes an impact. And we don't mean to hide behind that or, you know, misrepresent anything here. But as you advance through the ranks in the planes, you will have a strong appreciation for some of the things that come back out and some of the small gripes were fixed. And yes, we are also annoyed when they release the same planes with the same problems that were in the first one. But we're here to show you that on Brian Phillips RC. So please don't punish us. They don't ask our opinion, believe me. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is the radio setup. This is a big part of why a lot of you are on this channel right now is because you're new to the hobby, you don't know what you're doing, but you want the best out of your plane. That's why you come here. So this is an NX8. Right now we've been recommending the NX8. I've flown on the DX18 for years. Before that I flew on the DX8. Before that I flew on an IX, or excuse me, there was I think it was a DX5i, or 5, and then I had a DX4i, which came in a ready to fly. It was my Delta Ray. So we used that for a while, actually. Then we switched out. We did a DX8 and then the 18. After the 18, I went to an NX8, the NX8, and then the NX6, then the NX8. So full disclosure, when we do reviews for these people, they send us this stuff, okay? So we've never tried to hide behind that, so we hope you guys don't get the wrong idea. But at the end of the day, the stuff you see me reviewing, I've bought it all myself. It's just that they want you to see the new one. So the DX18 is the best radio I have currently in my repertoire. This does everything and more, except for the other 10 channels, which is kind of a big deal. And the sliders and a little bit more robust mixing And the thing is, if you update the firmware, you can do forward programming on DX18 Gen 1 still. But the reason we recommend the NX8 right now, and we will into the near future, is because we are told that for 2 to 3 years, this is going to be the ticket. This is going to give you the best success. It's the most attractive price point. If you go up to the 10, there's a big jump in price. Let's just get right down to it. Price sells stuff. We want you to know what we're using. We want you to be able to follow along in the videos. So now there are IX12s and IX20s if you want to get into the very high-end stuff. But to be perfectly frank, if you're spending, you know, $2,000 on a transmitter, you're spending more than I was on mine, that's for sure. And I would be jealous of you. So just so you know. I love the NX8. It's been great. Configurable displays work really good in the sun. That was one of our only concerns we had. It's been very, very successful. We've run into a glitch here and there, but nothing major. I think the most bad glitch we've had is that it beeps kind of in weird times when you're exiting menu structure. And I've had some people complain that they aren't thrilled with some of the audio events. There's maybe some like kind of like crispy noises that come out of it, and I just don't care. I mostly ignore what the audio events say, with the exception of the fact that you have audio events when your battery's low. Things like that is huge, huge. So anyway, back to the point. If you want to help support us, buy the stuff. Links in the description below. We'll link to this. We'll link to the battery that we use in the video. And then down below, there's even more stuff and master links. So you can just go to Horizon and you'll be supporting us with whatever you get. If you don't like buying the planes from us, or let's say you're in New Zealand or Europe or something like that, and you still want to support Megan and I and our family, we have six people in this family. I'm one of them. We have 4 kids downstairs waiting for this to be filmed so we can eat dinner. So just so you know, when you support us, you're supporting the family. We are just a regular family. I have a day job. This is what I do because I love it. My wife does it because I ask her to. And she loves me. So that's the real story. And at this point, you know, some year, it'd be cool if I could do this full time. And so what you guys are doing by helping support us is you're giving us that opportunity slowly but surely. And it is happening. We just don't know when. So if that's in 10 years, if that's in 5 years, if that's in 2 years, if that's in 6 months, we really honestly don't know. It's going to depend on how things come in. And that being said, I make a good living in my day job, so it might be a little bit hard to replace that. So we try not to be quite that transparent, just in case the boss is watching. PayPal, Patreon. Patreon has higher fee structure than PayPal if you want to do that. Otherwise, just buy the planes. All right, getting back to the point, radio setup. So we're going to turn on our radio. Okay, the radio comes on just like you would expect it to. Oh, by the way, cool tip. This is something that Horizon offers. You could probably get an aftermarket variety too, but there is a plug that's magnetic and you just plug it on. You don't even have to stick it in there. You just like touch it and it charges this. One thing I can tell you too, on the NX8 or the NX6, the battery that comes with it is small. It's only 2,000 milliamp hours and it doesn't last long. So if you're having to charge this all the time, it does charge on a USB, let's just show them real quick. It's a USB micro, so you can charge it like on your drive home or whatever with your cell phone charger. And I just happen to have this thing because that's a cool thing to be able to show people. I'd recommend you consider the 6,000 milliamp hour battery. That would be one thing that's gonna really get you a long, I mean, I almost never have to charge this. I might charge it once every 2 weeks. So, and we fly a lot and we do radio setup, and I usually just throw it on there and charge when I'm doing batteries just because, but if you're at the field and it's challenging, there's also USB plugs on the chargers, which are really nice. So anyway, getting back to the point, so we've got this set up for the Thunderbird over there because we just did that one a couple days ago. Was that yesterday? I can't remember when we did it. Yeah, but anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna click into the function list, scroll all the way down, system setup. If you guys hear me, I'm a little raspy. We were sick a couple weeks ago. It was pretty bad. We got better. We didn't die. So that's good. But the reason my voice is raspy is because I went and watched my beloved Iowa Hawkeyes get beat by Purdue. It was disgusting. If you're a Purdue fan, we'll talk later. So anyway, click into the function list, scroll all the way down, system setup, disconnect RF. You'll see the light disappear. Then if I scroll down, to model select, the second one, not the last one, it's gonna go into our models. and then I disappear from the screen and I go to add new model, click, and then we come back. We just do that for early releases. This is an early release. So if we build this video and then like in 2 days we do another video, then we have to protect this from showing up because we do have NDAs with a few of these people we work with, and companies we work with, companies and distributors we work with. One of the few things we hold from you guys is the stuff that we're legally obligated to hold from you, which are usually just around due dates and things like this, because they have contractual, like the RV7, for instance. The RV7 we had done, COVID pushed everything back, and you guys don't always hear this, but we try to share and be transparent. It all got pushed back like way far. That was supposed to be released like a year earlier. But RV7 Vans had a deal with Horizon. They had to release it during the, what was the event? I forget.
Flight Fest, wasn't it?
It wasn't, I don't think it was Flight Fest. It was like, it might have been an Oshkosh.
Oh, yeah.
But either it was Oshkosh or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's one of those events that was around that time. And so we couldn't publish our video. We had our video done a month before that. So it just, when the early releases happen, sometimes these things happen. We don't have any control over it. And that's one of the very few things that we allow, within the purview of decision-making of the companies we work with. We tell them point blank when we work with them, we're gonna be honest. So like if the plane sucks, we're gonna tell you that, or we're gonna talk to you and then just not use the footage because it's so bad. And we've had that happen at least once, and we have talked to them and then they went through and they pushed back releases by months to fix problems. So Horizon is extremely responsive to us, which is unusual. The other companies that we work with aren't necessarily the manufacturers or involved so closely with the manufacturers. So we get a lot of good response from them. So anyway, getting back to the point, create new model. So we're gonna click on this. You can move it. We're gonna do an acro. That's called an acro. Create. You can also make a bind and fly profile here, and you can download that. Believe it or not, this thing has Wi-Fi. You'll notice that took a while. That's one of those, I wouldn't even call it a glitch, but it's just kind of weird. Okay, so model select. This is the model type we just set a second ago. If you go back in and change this later, it will reset everything. It's gonna prompt you with that too, I believe. So just be aware. Okay, model type, model name. So this is where we put in the name. So the name, I typically do this. I call it the Habu SS. This is a 70 millimeter EDF, so I might put Habu SS 70. Because at some point, they classify the EDFs by the size of the EDF fan, but then like this FMS Ranger here, which by the way, you can get that from Horizon. They're a distributor of FMS, but we have links through our Horizon stuff, so you'll be supporting us if you buy those things too. That's a plug and fly, so you have to do all that stuff. And we added Crow to that recently. So if you don't know how to add Crow or what it is, it's where the flaps go down, which we added, and the ailerons go up and then continue to operate as ailerons and spoilers. And then these act as flaps. So they just stay stationary in the down position. And you can slow that thing down going downhill. It's really cool. So anyway, if you're curious about that, we got tons of footage, like 1,500 plus videos on our channel. So you guys could literally serve a jail sentence, watch every video. And like when you get out of jail, you'd be like, honey, I'm glad to see you, but I got to finish up this video. That's our audience.
Good to know.
So anyway, getting back to the point. So in this manual, so I'm gonna name it the Habu SS, but usually you look for a page that looks something like this. Horizon is very good, very consistent. Well, E-flite is.
Yep.
So they talk about plug and fly details here, talk about the channels and things like that, and then the computerized transmitter setup here. And we're gonna be looking at this because we have an NX8. Okay. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna name it, the name is obviously Habu, so we use a legacy keyboard because I prefer that. Yours might look a little bit different. If you like this better, go ahead and go to System Setup, scroll over a couple pages, you can change the keyboard entry. Okay, so we'll pause while we type. All right, so we have the name in there, it's Habu SS 70 millimeters, so I hit back. This is one of those times where sometimes it'll beep, 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 like this, but like who cares? Just a couple of little weird glitches. Then if you look at this on the front, I was just gonna point this out. If you're looking for the most latest and greatest, you can click here, but really the easiest way to get manuals is to go in the video description. We'll have a link in there for the plane, and that's how you buy it. But you can also click on there, scroll down a little bit on the page, and they'll have technical information, and then there's also spare parts, and then optional parts. So people ask all the time, like, hey, what size is this or what size is that? And I'm like, guys, I can't keep this stuff straight. So if I talk about it in the video, I know, and I said it. So you have to look at the video because I won't remember. But if you scroll down, you can look at the manual there, and the technical manual will be available for download at that point. Or you can scan that thing if you get it and you're like, hey, is there an update? Seems like maybe something's missing or there's like an addendum that should be in there. This thing was so easy to build. I just can't believe how easy it was. It's the second time we built it. And honestly, I can't remember building it the first time, but that was so easy.
Yeah, it was.
So getting back to the point. Okay, so what's next? Model name. So we got that aircraft type. We got to set up the wing type, but interestingly enough, it's a simple wing type, so it's already pretty much set up. And if you look down here at the computerized transmitter part, it'll tell you that. Wing, one aileron. One aileron. Okay? So it's pretty simple stuff. So now I'm going to hit next. Well, I'm actually going to go next. And then I'm going to change this picture because we have a Habu in here, which is pretty cool. Ooh. Looked like that guy crashed. Okay. I think it's supposed to be flying upside down.
I think so.
Okay, so then F mode. I'm not sure if I want to do flight modes on this. Do they talk about flight modes? I don't think they do. Throttle cut to minus 100. I'm glad they've gotten away from that minus 130. We had problems with that on the F-16.
Mm-hmm. I don't see anything about flight modes though.
Yeah, so, hey, yeah, I don't know if we have to do it for safe. We'll find out, okay? So now we're out. We've got a timer. We're going to go down and immediately do throttle cut. This is a safety feature. Get in the habit of setting this up. There's two ways you're going to get hurt in this hobby. The first which, I mean, there's millions of ways you can hurt yourself in any way. You can trip and fall off a cliff and die tomorrow. But, I mean, if there's cliffs around, maybe it's not a high cliff, maybe it's a short cliff and you still die. But anyway, the whole point is, you know, life is full of risks, and you're big boys or girls or whatever you identify as. If you trip and fall off a cliff, then, you know, you will have wished you flew some more planes. That's all I'm going to say. But safety features are very helpful. There's two ways predominantly you're going to hurt yourself in this hobby. One, you're going to stick your hand in a fan. No, you're going to stick your hand in a prop like that. You're going to get cut. People get cut really bad, and they go to the hospital, and they got like stitches all the way up their arms. Some people lose fingers. So be careful. I'm serious, guys. I don't talk a lot about safety because I'm not your mom, okay? Just be careful. Don't do stupid things. You probably won't get hurt. Just watch me do stupid things. Secondly, lipos. Lipos do pose an inherent risk because they're batteries. You need to be careful. Charge them, discharge them. Oh, Safe does that automatically. Smart does that automatically. These packs have a little, I guess I'll go over here for a minute. These packs, even the Gen 1, Gen 2, they have a little chip in here. I should show you one from a crashed one I've taken apart. There's a chip in here, and that balances the cells. So the number one way that these things get dangerous is that they get overcharged or they're outside of the low range, okay? So 4.2 volts is fully charged. Let's call it 3 volts, 2.8, 2.7, 2.5, something like that would be like in getting into the dangerous zone. Because what happens is if you over discharge a LiPo, then the chemistry becomes all out of whack. So chemistry refers to the chemical reactivity inside the cells. If you ever take one of these apart, which I don't recommend you do because it could be dangerous, plus it's lithium, there's little pieces of paper in there, lots of layers, and then there's that chemical additive, and then there's a little cover that goes around it. It's like a aluminized sheath that goes around it, and then there's 2 tabs that come out. And the chemical reactivity causes one to be polarized and one to be like the negative, so cathode, anode. They put those in series, and that makes a pack, which is indicated by the number of cells in series, not C, okay? So this is a 6S pack, so 6 cells in series. 30C refers to 3 times discharge rate is usually a good rule of thumb. And then the maximum charge capacity is 5C or 25 amps. They list this stuff out on the best stuff. Not just Horizon, by the way. Spectrum does this so that you know what's safe to charge this with. Smart chargers also use this data line with that little pin there. This is an EC3 glorified to an EC5 modified into an IC5 because you have that smart pin there, okay? The cases are interchangeable in terms of you can use them together, they're compatible. Okay? That smart data port passes information to the charger, so the charger knows how many cycles, how hot it is, all these different things. How hot it is how you get a little added layer of safety, and that's not to say that things don't break. So please, be careful. Put it on a hard surface. Don't charge it in your living room while you're sleeping or gone or with your baby sleeping or whatever it is. Put it on a hard surface. If there's a fire, assume it's gonna be bad and it's gonna be quick and it's gonna be like that, okay? And it'll fill your whole house with smoke. So hopefully that never, ever, ever, ever happens to you. That's our safety meeting for the day. If you can charge them outside in a garage, keep them away from flammables. Like I said, 2 ways you might get hurt in this hobby, and it's not getting hit by a plane, because that almost never happens. Statistically, you will be an extreme anomaly if you get hurt by a flying plane. It's props that hurt people, and it's batteries that can hurt people. And people have lost their homes, they've lost their garages. So just be careful, okay? Enough about that. I'm not your mother, remember? So switch H. Switch H is up here. Why are we talking about safety? Because we're gonna turn on throttle cut. What does throttle cut do? See this down here? That's the output of all the sticks. You can see how they move when I move the sticks. The output to the channels, they get sent out to that thing, are right here, okay? Why is the throttle not moving? Throttle's right there. Why doesn't it move? Because I have throttle cut on. Throttle cut's off. Look at that, now it moves. Okay, so that's a safety feature. Every time I pick up my transmitter, I check for that. It's muscle memory for me now. And I say it a lot, and that's a good way to help reinforce good behaviors. Throttle cut's on, throttle cut's on. You'll get sick of, I say that more than guys. Okay, so throttle cut's on.
And I think it's important if you fly with other people or with your kids, or
it's good practice.
It's good practice.
And
I
plus,
do it, our son does it.
If she picks it up, is the throttle cut on? She doesn't have to wonder, because I've already announced it like twice or 3 times. And when I fly with Esteban, my friend, he doesn't regularly, so I have to ask him. And then like after we fly together for a couple minutes, and he kind of remembers that and starts doing it. So discipline is the key to success in this field. If you're well disciplined, a throttle cut is just an additional feature. It's one of the very few ways you're gonna get hurt in this hobby, so just do it. Okay, all right, take my word for it, guys. Okay, click. Next thing is timer. So what do they recommend?
I don't remember seeing it.
Now,
it's usually...
It would normally be here. Now, the reason it isn't is because this thing has a smart ESC. So we technically don't even really need a timer, but I'm still show you how to set the timer if you're using a non-smart battery. So let's say your timer was 5 minutes. Okay, active. You don't have to use smart packs to fly this plane, by the way, but that's what we're using because we want to show you the full feature suite. Okay. So I'm on the next screen. At 1 minute, I want nothing. At 30 seconds, I want nothing. That INH stands for inhibit or prevent or stop, okay? At 10 seconds, I want voice because I want her to talk to me and say 10, 9, 8, okay? At expiration, I want tone and vibrate. And then every minute thereafter, I want 1 tone at the top of the minute. Okay, so we're done. So we'll show you how that works. Throttle cut is on, throttle cut's off. Move the stick, starts counting. And it keeps counting because we went over the threshold of 25%. I hit clear and it clears that. Throttle cuts on. Note that it still starts. Be aware. Okay? So throttle cut is not going to prevent the starting of your timer. All right, so now we have a 5-minute timer. That's going to give us a rough idea of about how long I think we can go. We probably go a lot longer, and we will. So here's the other thing you can do. Click, scroll down to audio events. Do you need me to tip this up a little bit?
That's good there.
Telemetry warnings. You'll notice that they're empty. Why?
So we haven't found yet.
Yep. So we'll come back to that. Throttle cuts on, sticks down. Good rules of thumb. Okay, so the next step for us is going to be to go ahead and bind the plane. So binding a plane anymore is super duper easy. You also notice that I use the manual for Horizon planes, and it's one of the few brands I actually use the manual for. We might refer to the manual for a couple of details on a plug and fly plane, but in this case, we go through step by step pretty much. And when I say step by step, I mean page 2, then to page 10, from page 10 back to page 5, and from 5 to 7, and 7 to 3, and then back to 2, and then, so it's kind of annoying that they don't just put them in the same order all the time.
Well, you don't always follow directions.
There's that. Okay, So we got a battery in here, but it's not actually plugged in yet because we were checking the CG early, which stands for center of gravity if you didn't know. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take our transmitter and we're gonna shut it off by pressing the power button. We're gonna be in this profile or this plane right now. So make sure you're on the right plane because the way that the binding procedure works, it takes a while to shut off. Used to be a toggle switch. Well, you can bump a toggle switch and shut it off. In fact, as a kid, story time for just a second, I promise I'll keep it short. My dad was flying an eaglet, a SIG eaglet or an eagle. No, it's an eaglet. And he accidentally hit the power switch and guess what happened to the plane? In a cornfield. 4,000 pieces. That's what you call a one and done. Serious. He did build another one. So anyway, but I don't know that he ever flew it again. Okay, unplugged, plugged in. It's the only time you plug in your plane without having command and control of it. You'll notice the ESC starts beeping. That's fine, it's normal. I'm gonna press this button until I hear a click and then hold until I see a flash. Now, I'm gonna walk way back here to the other side of the room. My camera crew is gonna stand here and I'm gonna press and hold this bind button while powering this on. Once I see it start waking, I can let go of that button. And it says binding. And it's gonna fail. It always fails because we're filming. So now watch, click, scroll down to bind. It's gonna try again. Okay, now we're gonna walk over here. We're gonna get a little bit further away. You'll note that we're a long ways away, okay? Bind. Only one dance. Pay attention. It's auto-configuring the telemetry data. Why is it auto-configuring the telemetry data? The way this system works is very simple from a user standpoint. It's probably a lot more complicated than I want to explain here, but there is a transmitter and a receiver in this. And you're like, but that's a transmitter, Brian. Yeah, it's a receiver too. And that's a transmitter and a receiver. Why is it a receiver and a transmitter? Because it's a receiver, right? Yes, both. Because this transmits data from telemetry. So there's full duplex communication going on here, which is pretty cool. That's where the flyby, as opposed to a full range, comes into play. You're never gonna care because you're not gonna set up your plane while you're flying through the air unless you're crazy and you got somebody with 3 hands. If you have 3 hands, I wanna meet you. So anyway, coming back to this. At this point, not a terrible idea to just shut the plane off, start it back up, but we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna click and I'm gonna scroll down and we're gonna look at forward programming, connecting, gyro settings, safe select. Look at that. We have no command and control over our, that's not at a good enough angle. We have no command and control over the flight modes because we didn't set up flight modes, okay? So I'm gonna show you that you may or may not need that, but I'm gonna walk out and pretend like you don't need it. Here is the general procedure for activating safe select where available. Throttle cut's on, tested. It's not gonna start flying. I'm gonna shut off the throttle cut and it's still not working. I'm gonna give it some throttle. Sounds good. Throttle cut's on. Okay, so now the next thing I'm gonna test, again, throttle cut works, clear the timer. I am going to hold the sticks down and in and make an assignment. But if you go to monitor mode by scrolling over to monitor mode, you can use this to see what switches already have assignments. So that's not assigned, that's not assigned. Typically, when I don't have retracts, I use switch A for safe. If I have retracts, flaps, safe on here and AS3X here. Sometimes I do none here, just depends on what I'm doing. You can't actually set this to none, okay? So, I'm gonna hold the sticks down and in, then I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So you'll notice it's not doing anything. After 5 full swings, so 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I just keep going until I see them jump. We didn't see it jump. Why? Because we don't have a flight mode active, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that next. Click, scroll in the function list down to system setup, disconnect RF. That means we've lost control of the plane, by the way. Go down to flight mode setup. I'm gonna turn on flight mode switch 1 to A. Okay, so there's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. See how that works? I'm gonna hit back, I'm gonna hit back. Now, this may automatically allow it, so let's try it. Down and in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So obviously it didn't work. The reason I'm going through this exercise is because that plane and this plane both have an AR631, but that doesn't mean that the firmware is set up the same way. There is an intermediate step between this and the night vapor, or not the night vapor, the night Radian, and then some of the others with 631s. So we go through both because we don't know until we figure it out, okay? So now the next thing is you'll notice it says flight mode 1, flight mode 2. You can change those audio events, which we'll go over later. But for now, let's go into forward programming. That's where you program the receiver. Gyro settings, safe select. Let's go ahead and turn safe select on. Now, what is safe select? Safe select means that safe is on all the time. Safe is auto leveling. Well, I don't want it on all the time. I just want it on when I need to take off or land, or when I want to stop watching my plane for a few minutes so I can tell the kids to stop doing something stupid or whatever. Okay, fine. Here's the thing. Don't do that, by the way. Safe select is selectable, but when safe select is on, it's on. You're turning it off with a selected switch. So if you're ever in a situation where you want safe, but you can't afford the channel, it's on or off in the menu. You follow? So, all right, so it is currently on. It says on here, but then safe says on. Well, that's confusing. Which one is it? Safe select is on. Safe is on when you're in flight mode 1.
Flight mode 2.
Flight mode 2, you'll note that it didn't change. Look at that. Safe select. I'm gonna
Flight mode 1.
see that? Now I've set it to gear, which is this switch, the same switch that goes between flight modes. Now look what happens. The screen changes as I flip the switch. AS3X is on, safe is off. Safe select is still on.
Flight mode 1.
Safe select is on, but safe is on now. You see how that works? Now, you don't have to do the dance with the sticks anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna walk out. Okay, so now let's throttle cut, elevator up. Look at the elevator. See how it went up further? Let's do a different surface. Okay, ailerons. See how it went down? See how it went up? See how it went down? Look at the rudder. Here, how about this way?
Okay.
Flight mode 2.
Flight mode 2 is AS3X only.
Flight mode 1.
Flight mode 1 safe. How do we know that? Because the amount of deflection, because there's limited bank angles and reduced authority for safe. Okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do, now that we know that things are working, and we're not done, by the way, we're just kind of done for that step. Okay, I'm gonna plop this canopy back on, and I'm gonna show you another even better way to test for safe. And if you guys have seen the channel, you've seen this a million times. But if you're new to the channel and you don't know this stuff, good luck finding it out without me. There's other people, but okay, there you go. It's doing that dance. What the heck is going on? Is it broken? No. It's trying to find the quickest route to level. That way, it's quicker this way. That way, it's quicker this way. And look, they stopped dancing. Now look at the elevator. Plane's level, right? How about now? Is it level? Nope, it's trying to get it level. How about now? Is it level? Nope, it's trying to make it level. That's auto leveling. Now look at the rudder. The rudder is not gonna do that. Be aware. The ailerons will bring it level and the elevator will bring it level, but the rudder is not gonna be part of that equation, okay? Safe runs on roll and pitch axis, okay? Rudder is not involved, but rudder to aileron tie, meaning when you give it ailerons, it can actually mix that in for coordinated turns as part of a function of safe. You can do that when you do a full setup, but this is a bind and fly, so it's got some things already done for you. Okay, so I'm gonna move this over here and the camera crew is gonna come back around. We're gonna talk about some more stuff. Okay, so real quick, we're in safe. Now we're in AS3X. How do you tell? By the amount of deflection. Also, you can name it. I don't want safe back here. I want safe up here. Got it? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scroll down to the easiest ways to go to servo setup, go to reverse, and just reverse gear. Okay, then you're done. Okay, that's one way. So now,
Flight mode 2.
that's safe, that's AS3X. You guys understand what I did there? Mm-hmm. You'll note that I never did the dance. The dance was unnecessary. Everything was done in forward programming. You wanna know what? Over there, we did the dance.
Yep.
Okay? That's why I'm telling you, we have to check both because I don't know until I do it. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and click in here. Now we can do this audio event. Flight modes, flight mode name. So now we know in flight mode,
Flight mode 2. Flight mode 1.
now I can set this to AS3X. Just the name, I'm just typing it in. It's very simple, AS3X. And then I can click over here, clear, clear. And then I can go in here and scroll all the way down to the other side of the planet and put AS3X. You'll note that I'm going a long ways because there's a lot of different things you can make it say. Once you get down here, stabilize mode, that's one, but there's actually one that says AS3X mode, AS3X. I want it to say just AS3X.
Flight mode 2. AS3X.
Pretty cool, huh?
Flight mode 2.
Now, flight mode 2, let's change the name to safe. S-A-F-E. You guys see how easy this is? It's harder if you can't spell. Life is hard when you can't spell. It's called Google. Google.
It's called, you ask me. Once you get past the waypoints,
Yeah.
because there's a bunch of them, and then you can slow down and start reading.
There is another way too to get through, but I don't ever do it because there's a way to get into a nesting loop in here too. That's just one of those stupid details that I don't really care about.
AS3X mode. Safe mode.
Pretty cool. Now, audio vents. I want to do a telemetry warning. Smart battery. Now, check this out. Before you do that, let's look over here. Look at all this crap we got here. It's so cool. Oh yeah, there's your nominal voltage. There's no percentage here. We're working on that. We keep complaining to Horizon that we want a percentage, but they haven't quite done it. You also have a BEC temperature. The BEC is a portion of the circuit called the battery eliminator circuit. And that's what runs the servos, LEDs, and receiver. It's part of the electronic speed control. Nope. It's part of the electronic speed control. The electronic speed control is what actually takes the power from the battery and converts that DC voltage to operate the essentially AC motor, which is the brushless motor, okay? So it's like a variable frequency drive if you're into industrial stuff like I do. Okay, all right, volts. That's why you can flip 2 of any 3 of the leads and the direction of travel will switch. Okay, so the next thing is battery info. Then look at this, 4.13 volts all the way through and the temperature of the pack itself. That's one of the very few things that is going to give you a massive safety advantage over non-smart packs. The second big one is auto discharge. It gets it to 3.8 volts or 3.9 or whatever you set it to at the period of time that you designate. I set 240 hours. It's a long time. It's the least effective way to do it. Usually people set it for 72 hours. They go, they fly, or they don't fly. At the end of the weekend, it starts discharging if they didn't fly. Okay? This is your flight modes.
AS3X mode.
See how it says AS3X stabilized,
Safe mode.
stabilized, and angle demand. That's auto leveling. They're demanding an angle of the plane. Stupid nomenclature, if you ask me. Why don't they just say auto level? Here's your gyro settings. Oh yeah, buddy. We can program the avian for reverse thrust. So we're gonna do that too. Okay, so going back to the main menu, check this out. Throttle cut's on. We gotta see, okay, we have safe, we have AS3X. It's very simple. everything works. That's why we like Horizon, because we do things, might take a few minutes to put stuff together and set it up, but once it's set up, you're done. Watch this. That's cool. It's a little loud. Okay, so we have pretty much a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio, which is pretty sweet. That means it's gonna have unlimited vertical because it can fly from with no inertia. Okay, going straight up. Okay, so I'm gonna clear the timer. Obviously, we're gonna use some juice doing that, so no big deal. Okay, so we're in AS3X mode. The next thing we need to do is we need to program this for reverse thrust. Why would you need reverse thrust, Brian? It's just a Habu, just land it. Because reverse thrust is awesome. Okay, we're gonna unplug the battery. Why are we unplugging the battery?
You have to start from scratch to get into the ESC programming.
The avian programming is only accessible for about 15 seconds or so. I don't know how long it is.
It's plenty of time.
It's plenty.
Into the menu.
Okay, so you lay this thing in here. I hate that battery lead though. That's not cool. It's awkward. Oh, there we go. I finally got a good angle. Okay, so now look, quick. Okay. Low throttle, up elevator, left elevator. Step 1. I don't know, we might have taken too long. Right elevator.
Oh, we got it. Yeah.
We got it. Now watch this. Okay, so now we're in there. See how when I move the sticks, this is using a serial control, and the serial control is actually indicated by this stick position, left and right, up and down. Flight mode, fixed wing, brake disabled, normal, proportional, reverse. You can do a cutoff voltage at 3.4 or whatever you want. 3.4 in my opinion is a little bit low. But I don't actually want cutoff at all. I just assume destroy the battery and save the plane. Startup soft? I don't know, we'll have to see. Timing 15, rotation's fine because it was pushing. This is where we're gonna set up our thrust reverse. So it's on channel 7. I'm gonna go to channel 8. Exit was saved, booyah. Now it's exiting, you just heard it arm. If you guys never paid attention, that beep is the cell count. Beep, 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 beep. There you go. And also the beep, beep. There's a different beep if you have braking on. Okay, throttle cut's off. Forward thrust, okay? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the menu. You can probably stay over here from pretty much now on. Okay. You don't have to go back like that. Okay, so here's the monitor mode. Channel 8 is auxiliary 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So command and control of auxiliary 3 is up here on the knob. We don't necessarily need it on the knob. I want it to be over here, so we're gonna make a reassignment. This is switch G, okay? The reason I'm using G is because I have established some different settings called pilot fatigue. I don't know if we're gonna do that yet. We use that on the Viper jet and on the F-16 80mm. It helps when landing. I'll explain later. First, we're gonna go to system setup, disconnect RF, go down to channel assign. By default, it's set to auxiliary 3. Now, if I'm doing this as an AR631, stay here, an AR631 or an AR637 TA or T, a T, meaning it's not a bind and fly. I will use this to command and control my master gain. Because this is a bind and fly, we don't have immediate access to that without clearing out the entire setup of the 631. We're not gonna waste our time on that, okay? So I'm gonna change this right knob to switch G, okay? Now, you can clear out of that by hitting the clear button. See how it's 24.4 volts? I'm gonna go to audio events. Sorry guys, we're just jumping here real quick. Telemetry warnings, smart battery. I'm clicking in there. It takes a second to load, by the way. There we go. Okay. Startup volts 4.1. I don't even want that warning. I don't like that warning. Can you get a little bit closer so they can actually read these things? Like that. That would be better, I suppose. Okay, so then overcharge, I don't care. It's never happened in my entire flight experience. Imbalance, I don't even know. So I'm gonna hit back. Now I wanna go to volts. There we go. Status report and warning reports. They are different. Status reports will update at frequency.
24.3.
If you want to know every minute what your voltage is, it will read it to you. I want it as a warning. And if it's a warning, I'm going to get it every 15 seconds, which 15 seconds is a long time. But when you're in a stressful environment trying to land, you don't want it to be just constantly dinking around, okay? So, max, let's set this to success and let auto populate those two values. Now, this is where I get a calculator because I literally don't want to put it in wrong. And every time I try to do math in my head on YouTube, I look like an idiot. So we have 6 cells. So think about it like this. 6 times 4.2 at full charge, you should be 25.2, okay? 6 times 3.8 is 22.8. That would be where I would want to start hearing warnings. The problem is, once you initiate the warning, it keeps going. And I'm not sure if it latches or if it just goes when you meet that criteria, okay? So I'm just gonna, for grins and giggles, I'm gonna set the volts min, instead of 18 is pretty low, guys. I'm gonna set it to 22.8. Okay? So 22.8. Geez, what's 18? 18 divided by 6? That's only 3 volts. Yeah, I'd want a warning way before that. I guarantee you, if you're at 18 volts, that plane's coming down. Or, well, except this thing is so efficient, it'll glide forever. Okay, so 22.8 is fine. And what's gonna happen is every 15 seconds, it's gonna warn us by verbalizing, okay? And I want the alarm on voice, not tone, okay? So voice. So when we drop below 22.8, it's gonna say voltage, blah, blah, blah. Then 15 seconds later, remember 15 seconds is a long time on an EDF jet. It's gonna say voltage 22.3. And I will ignore her again. And then so on and so forth until we crash. Okay, so what were we working on before we did that?
I don't remember.
We were working on, we did safe, we did the auto events.
You do need to do a rates and expo.
Yeah, but we were doing something else and I forget what it was. It was under forward programming,
Oh, well,
wasn't it?
did you test the reverse thrust?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
so-
reverse thrust. That's what we're setting up.
Yep.
I apologize, guys, I forgot. Okay, so reverse thrust, I'm gonna go to monitor. See how there's minus 100, 0, and plus 100, okay? Can you get them a little bit better angle so they can actually see this? Go around to the other side and let's try that. Okay, so you got 3 positions, 100. You've got 3 positions. There's 100, then there's 0, then there's minus 100. One of them is gonna make the motor go backward, just right there. Okay, throttle cut's off. Okay, I'm gonna lay this down. Okay, so guys, see that's going forward, obviously. Now if we go to the other direction, it's going backward, okay? So currently, this switch, when it's pushed away like this, the motor's going backward. So at 100 on channel 8, auxiliary 3 in my case, that's reverse. This is forward. Oh, that's reverse also. And then this is forward. Okay? So how to fix that if you want to make it, you can go to 2 different ways you can do it, but I'm just going to show you the easiest way. You can go to digital switch setup. You can select the switch, hit select, and then put it in there. So on position 0, I want that to be forward thrust. So I actually want position 0 to be, whoops. I want it to be minus 100. Okay, so that's gonna make forward thrust in that all the way back position. Whoops. And no, you can't overdrive reverse thrust. I've already tried it. Then I want the next switch position to be the same. Okay, so this one we need to set to minus 100 just to make the point. Now you'll notice that the switch is always minus 100. Don't worry, we'll switch this one back to plus 100. Okay, so what that means is, here in a second, I'll show you. Okay, so when I'm in this position, it's gonna go backward. When I'm in this position, it's gonna go forward, or when I'm in this position, it's gonna go forward. So now let's give them a shot from back here so you can see what's going on. Okay, so now throttle cut is off, by the way. Okay, forward, forward, reverse. Okay. In the past, I've made an additional setting. My throttle cut's back on, by the way. There's one more setting that I've done in the past, and it's called pilot fatigue. Okay, pilot fatigue is real easy to set up. I'm just gonna show you. Whoops, I want this one to be plus 100. So it's gonna be thrust reverse is on here, and it's on here. But it's off here, okay? So, looking at the switches, this is forward thrust, and that's the way I fly, okay? Forward thrust, then reverse, then reverse. That might be a low voltage warning. So what you guys just heard there, that's forward thrust, okay? Keeping in mind reverse thrust is less efficient, so you may get to a low voltage warning before that, okay? So now I'm gonna go to mixing. Normal. When I wanna make throttle, that throttle cut is on, by the way, so do this with throttle cut on. I wanna make throttle equal to throttle at a rate of, let's test this, 25. Okay, so now throttle cut's off. Okay, throttle cut's back on. Now, what's happening is I want that to be on when the switch is in the all the way back position. Okay, so I gotta set that first. My apologies, guys. See how that's dark? This is light, that means it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna do anything. So when this switch is all the way back, this is what's gonna happen. Okay, the offset on throttle is gonna be something. Now my throttle cut is gonna hide what's happening. You see how it's not changing down here? That's because throttle cut's on. So I think I have to be at 100. Okay, so now everybody be careful, here we go. So throttle cut's off, okay. Come back over. Because we made a change before I made my assignment, I have to clear that, so my apologies. So 3 positions. You can see right here what my switch is actually doing, okay? So you don't need to readjust anything, okay? So this is doing nothing, and then this is doing something. Now, as I scroll this number in, it's gonna start running the fan, and it's gonna be backward. Okay, don't worry about the lady.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, see, it's going down, not up. Remember. Okay, throttle cut's on, so I can do that with my ears covered, essentially. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to this and I'm gonna clear it. So now look what happens. When I put my throttle cut off, nothing happens. The throttle is responsive as usual. Okay, when I'm in the middle setting, my throttle is reversed and responsive to stick position. But in this, watch what happens. Go ahead and come out. Watch this. That's the pilot fatigue setting. Throttle cut's on, let's show them again. Now my warning just came up. Okay, 22.5, remember we set that earlier? It's gonna give us a warning that we're below our whatever threshold we set. Okay, so now let's go back into mixing so you can see what is going on. Here's mixing, this is what it is. Nothing, nothing, throttle cut's on, so I can do this without it actually running. Nothing, and then something. That's only going to control the throttle position, not that position. And if you were to use the stick, okay, then I believe, okay, so let's just show the people what's gonna happen. You aren't gonna be able to see this, you'll just have to take my word for it. I'm gonna turn it on and it's gonna go full bore reverse, and I'm gonna show you what happens with the stick condition. There should be no change in state, okay? So regardless of what you have the throttle in, it's gonna wanna totally stop you, like right now. But as a pilot, you have to be aware, you have to shut that off or it'll go backward and it'll like go into the ditch or whatever, okay? So throttle cut is off. So the whole idea of pilot fatigue is a setting that you can come in for landing, you're flying along, you get the wheels down, you touch that nose down, and you're just like, give her hell. And she'll go full thrust backward, and you don't have to build in the muscle memory to give full throttle to stop. Because I'm telling you, the problem with thrust reverse for the average Joe or normal pilots that aren't used to it yet, because it's still something we're learning, is that, and there's our warning, every 15 seconds she'll say it. The problem is we're still learning. So when you go to land, you're not used to giving full throttle. Even though you can do it, like you can think about it, it's gonna take you just a couple of seconds to kind of connect the dots. By the time those couple seconds have elapsed, it's too late. You've lost the whole value of that thrust reverse. It's gotta be Johnny on the spot. And it's gotta be quick. So anyway, that's what thrust reverse is super good for. So no flaps, but it may not matter because you come in and you fly it to the ground, you get it on the ground, thrust reverse, boom, stops you, come out of it, go back to forward control, and you're back to flying, or taxiing in this case. Right? It'll make sense. If you haven't seen the video, we have a video with the F-1680, which is the Falcon. It's the more detailed one. This one doesn't have thrust reverse, but we've also done it on the Viper Jet 90. The 70 also, again, like this, doesn't have the avian ESC. So if you're deciding to go for this instead of the STS, please check the video description below. You can buy that and help support our channel. This thing looks like it's gonna be super fun. Obviously, a couple things to keep in mind. You might wanna switch that landing aid sensor upside down. If alternatively, you'd like to cover this up with something, if you're doing belly landings, like a piece of tape or thick plastic and some hot glue or whatever, that would be good too. But I feel like this is gonna be good enough to get that in position. Keep in mind, this is just a blank. It's not actually the landing aid sensor. So the LES is something you can use. I don't know how to use it. I'm not even gonna teach you how to do it because I don't know how to do it myself, and I don't believe in it, so I'm not gonna tell you how to do it because I don't want you to do it. Hopefully that makes sense. I respect you guys as pilots. Everybody has different opinions, so I'm not gonna try to take anybody down, you know, that's into that. Go ahead and try it if you want, but I'm just not into it. I don't think it's the right approach. So that being said, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, this plane is probably gonna be great based on everything I've seen, based on the last one we flew, but we haven't seen it fly yet. So we're gonna see it fly. Obviously it's dark right now. We're doing this review on a weeknight, and we're gonna do the flight the next day if Mother Nature cooperates. The thrust reverse is awesome, but it's not gonna be near as efficient as your forward thrust. So just keep that in mind too when you initiate thrust reverse. It can also tip your plane in weird ways that you aren't expecting. So be aware of that. And just be Johnny, you know, be Johnny on the spot with getting off of the switch once you've done thrust reverse. You know, I've got throttle cut on, so it won't do anything. But when you're back like this, you need to pay attention and shut it off when you're done, okay? So the pilot fatigue is a cool setting, but it's also not something that Horizon, you know, goes out of the way to recommend. It's just something I think is sweet. And if the feature exists, I like it. It's fun. And by the way, you'll note that she's only doing this every 15 seconds. If this was every 5 seconds, can you imagine just how distracting that would be in a moment of intense stress like landing? By the way, that warning is too low, or that's too high. I wanna go back to forward programming, excuse me, audio events. I'm gonna go to telemetry warning, and I'm gonna go to volts. I had to add that, by the way. So volts, you can add all sorts of other stuff. I think I need to take 6 off of that, so it'd be like 22.2. So that'd be like 3.2 volts per cell. Because I just feel like 22.8 is 3 point, did I say 3.8 per cell?
Yeah, I think that's what you want.
I need to be lower than that. Yeah, so if I want to take another 6 off, yeah, that's probably about right, actually. 22.2 is usually what I run. So the reason that I reserve more voltage after warning, or, you know, when the warning kicks in, you're gonna wanna land. Well, the problem is with EDFs is they are power hungry. And so if you hear a warning, cut your throttle, glide, let it recover. Your packs will actually recover quite a bit when you let off the throttle. Once you let off the throttle, you've recovered your voltage a little bit, the warning may disappear. Or you can just press clear. I'm just gonna tell you this from personal experience. Pressing clear is not something I'm used to doing while I'm flying because I'm not used to clearing a timer. When I'm flying, I'm used to clearing a timer after I land. And so I have made a habit not to clear time when I'm flying. So it's a little bit counterintuitive for me. And so things that are counterintuitive, like moving the stick forward when you're on the ground landing, are things that you don't want to train your brain to do necessarily because that's training bad habits and bad muscle memory, okay? Also, if you're a quad pilot, you'll get this because landing with a fixed wing, you know, you want to cut the throttle and then you're kind of more or less gliding in at the end. You might give a little kiss of throttle at the end, but that's it. If you're used to flying quads, you may have near full throttle when you're coming into land because you got a low battery. But the idea is when you crash a fixed wing plane, you cut throttle. It's one of the first things you learn. Quad pilots have trouble with that because they're used to like giving throttle to get away from the ground or whatever. Okay, so we talked about a lot of details in this video. You don't have to listen to all of them, but if you want to have the same flight experience that we do, then you'll want to follow all those. Dual rates and expo, we haven't talked about. Let's just knock that out right now. Dual rates and expo are very simple in my opinion and very helpful. I would recommend using them. Okay, I'm going to set it to stick F. I'm going to set the first one to 5, the middle one to 10, and then the last one to, let's call it 20, and let's drop the rate down to like 90. Okay, that's how I do all 3 control axes. You have to start by switching the switch so that you can designate where you want it to be run by. And then what I do is I set the middle to 10 and the top to 20 and then the bottom to 5. And then on the top, I drop the rates down. The rates have to do with how much deflection the control surfaces will be allowed to at maximum stick movement, okay? And you see how that moves? That's the chart that reflects the reality that you're gonna be experiencing once you're flying, okay? This might be insufficient on this plane. It might be too much. But the beauty of this setup is that once we're done with that, we fly in the middle. If it's too much, we back off. If it's too little, we double it and we reduce the rates. The idea here, and with many of my default starting point configurations that I use, is that I want to get to the ground. And then suppose that we're flying along and we end up putting it to this setting because it's just way too touchy. That gets me to the ground. Then I set my next setting, whatever this was, to the middle. And then I double it again for the lower setting. And I have it for the top setting. Because there are going to be times when you want to have a little bit less expo. Just depends on the wind conditions. If it's dead calm, you need very little expo potentially. Or maybe if it's super windy, you want a little bit more expo. It just kind of depends. Now, expo, not to be confused with gains on the stabilizer. It's not the same thing at all. Expo just has to do with how far you move the stick before you have full impact relative to the stick position. This is 0% and 0% up and down. This is 100%, 100%. Okay, I'm just throwing out numbers. This would be like minus 100, minus 100. The idea is if you're in the middle of that range at 50, if you had expo of 50, the middle of the stick position would be 0 output, even though the stick's at 50. Then somewhere between there and the end of the stick range, you'd still get the same full deflection on the stick or on the actual control surface. So the idea being you command control less in the center of the sticks. We call it softening the sticks. That's what people say, which doesn't even make sense to people that don't understand it. But when you pull that stick, you've kind of got that like, you know, you've got your throttle and your rudder. Well, you're moving your throttle to different positions. So like maybe your hand isn't quite big enough, so you have to kind of reach a little bit. And so people have a propensity to give rudder on accident, okay? That expo helps with that. Same thing here, you've got your elevator here, but you've also got your aileron. So as you pull your thumb through that range, you may not have very precise control, or maybe you have a handicap or something like that. You got damaged muscles or tendons. And so you can use that expo to help soften some of those mistakes that you might otherwise make. But generally speaking, if you fly radio-controlled airplanes, your muscle memory is going to make up for that after a period of practice. A long period, but still a period. Okay, those are the defaults that I always run. I always start there, unless I'm doing a 3D plane, and then I do some different things. So I have an extra like crazy intense setting where I have like either no expo or negative expo, which means that it's actually more exaggerated output at the center of the sticks. Heli pilots like it that way too. I'm not a heli pilot, obviously. So there you go, guys. I forgot to do that. I apologize. Didn't mean to have that at the very end. Help support the channel. Buy these things from our links. If I helped you in this video, which I'm sure some of you, if you're still watching this video, I either helped you or you're laughing at me. So if you're laughing at me, I helped you because it was funny. Buy the stuff from the links. If you don't like this plane, buy another one from the link. If you don't like this battery, we've got other options. We love bringing this stuff to you. We really appreciate you. If you don't want to buy the planes from the links, but you still want to support us, we got PayPal and Patreon. Patreon has a little bit higher fee structure, just so you guys know, full disclosure. And PayPal is pretty much totally free for everybody, except for sometimes there's some international transaction fees. So far, we've been really happy with PayPal. It's been the easiest way for us to get money if you guys want to support us in that way. But really, we think buying the planes is part of our objective with you anyway. So we prefer you do it that way if you can. Plus, it builds clout with the manufacturers. At the end of the day, we want to work with as many manufacturers as we can, because then that keeps us free to give you the best advice possible, and we will be well versed in the differences between this and maybe another competitive brand that we don't offer right now. So that's part of the reason why we're more interested in you buying the planes. So that being said, guys, we've got so much more. We literally got a whole boatload of stuff the other day, and we are excited to bring it to you. The NX8 has been great. The NX8 has been great. If I didn't mention that earlier, we've been extremely satisfied with this. I've actually broke it once. I dropped it on the floor. I had to take out this switch and switch it with another switch. It was no big deal. But I mean, I just like literally dropped it from the table. That was annoying. It's the first time I've ever done that, by the way. I've been pretty fortunate. So other than that, it's been wonderful. The smart batteries have been very good. Some people give us some hate on that because they're like, well, you know, those things aren't as good as you say. Well, I think they're pretty good. You guys might have had better experiences with other packs, but I can tell you this, they're made in some of the best facilities on the planet Earth, and the more expensive the battery is not necessarily where they're made, but the plant where these are made, it's pretty expensive. That's why they tend to be better. That's all I'm gonna say. There are more expensive places to get batteries, by the way, but this is probably on the top 3 in the world. So in case you're wondering why they're more expensive, it's because of the technology, which is smart technology, and because of the auto discharge, and because of the temperature sensors and the auto balancing. Gen 2 auto balances faster than Gen 1. They are a little bit more expensive. I think Gen 1 is fully sufficient for that. So dollars to donuts, get the Gen 1 if they're offered. If the Gen 2's in stock, buy it now. Don't wait. Price hikes are coming. I'm warning you now because I have heard things through the pecking order. And if you like this plane and you want to buy it, if they haven't raised the price, buy it now. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. If you want stuff, you got to back order it right now. If it's out of stock, order it now. Otherwise, when it comes back in stock, you might be surprised with the higher fee. I hate to be the mediator. I don't control it. I'm just here telling you what I know. And what I know is if you want a battery and the Gen 2's in stock and the Gen 1's not, and you want to save the money and buy the Gen 1, buy the Gen 2. You're probably going to pay a higher price for the Gen 1 when it comes back. It's just the reality we face right now. Inflation is very high and shipping is crazy. And we're getting into Christmas season, so if this is a Christmas gift for your kids or yourself, definitely order it ASAP. They will be coming into stock anytime soon, but you need to have your order placed. If it's on back order or pre-order and you want this plane, order it today. Don't wait, because I don't want you guys to be disappointed. It hurts our feelings knowing that you guys can't get some of this stuff because they're so good. Anyway, that's all I got for you. That's the spiel. The spiel is we want you guys not to be one and done pilots, so we're gonna help our best to keep you from being that, and we want you to get the most out of your RC budget because everybody has limits. Come back for more. Thanks for watching. YouTube, it's Brad Phillips. Look at this. SS Super Sport Habu 70mm. Only difference from what you remember, we're on 6S. This flies on 4 or 6S, whereas the original Habu STS flew on 3 or 4S. and it was full safe equipped and all that good stuff, but it was a ready to fly or a plug and fly. This is a bind and fly. And I like that, and I think it should have been that way in the beginning, but it wasn't. So here we have it. We're gonna take off right now. Don't forget, guys, this thing has an avian ESC, so throttle cut's off. Oh no, I wanna go backward. There's our thrust reverse. That sounds so cool. That's only about 20% throttle there, as you can see. And I just want you guys to be aware, we also have pretty much all the telemetry data we want. So if you have your smart pack, you're gonna be able to see all that good stuff, which is awesome. Super helpful. 4.15 seems a little bit lower than I was expecting. This was at 98% when we started. So throttle cuts off. Here we go. Whoa, that thing gets up.
Wow.
Boy, there is not very much throw on that elevator. As you can see, it's got very good. Whoa, that is not enough throw on that elevator. Tons of trim. Let's see if that does it. Okay, here's full up elevator now. Okay, here we go. So obviously we're in AS3X mode. Let's see what happens when we go into safe. There's safe, a little bit of down angle. Okay, coming out of safe. All right, so I don't know if maybe the CG is a little bit off. We're on 4006S. Very good amount of ups. Okay, here we go. We'll try for a high-speed pass. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She's fast. Now, one thing everybody that had the first Habu could agree on is that the thing flew great. The one thing people couldn't agree on is if it was as beautiful as they wanted it to be, because all the changes made for a very thick cord. Let's go over the tree line here. We good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go down to this low point, hun, and then right down. As you can see, it's pretty speedy. That thing has, I would say, very near unlimited vertical. It's maybe not insane. That's where safe is handy, guys, when that sun is right behind you and you're not sure what direction you're rotating. Oh, that was so cool. I just saw the fan blades spinning in there. Oh, that was so cool. Okay, here we go. A little bit of rudder to point that nose right down the runway and just a nice glide. I think I know what's going on with this plane that's gonna help make it even better. And I can tell you what it is right now. It is. I need to get the CG back just a hair. And that's gonna give us all the elevator that we probably need. I feel a lot better now, but I feel like I could use a little bit more trim. That's all the way trimmed out right now. Okay, so let's try for a landing. You're good there, camera crew, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so now we have thrust reverse, so I can kick it into thrust reverse pilot fatigue setting as soon as I touch down, but I don't think we're gonna have a big problem getting it down.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, all right, couple thoughts on a Maiden. That was a porpoisey, terrible landing, but I want to tell you two things. This week has been terrible for weather, okay? This is controllable thrust reverse, and then all the way back is full on pilot fatigue, but throttle cuts on. So that would make it do what we just did there. All I do is touchdown and throttle, or it's right next to my throttle cut. And so you can do one of two things. When you're done with your pilot fatigue, you can kick your throttle cut on, or you can just kick it back here or go to forward thrust. So that landing was not good, but I can tell you this. Watch this. And this is something we're gonna help you guys address. Look at my trim. I'm all the way trimmed down, all the way. That is not good. You don't wanna be all the way out of trim and also still have that nose tending down. I needed more trim to get that to fly level. Not a huge deal breaker, but I was thinking I was in safe when I did my initial roll. Here's the thing. When a plane becomes overstable, meaning that you are too nose heavy, you'll get that exact same behavior. So my guess is when we bring that battery back, not only is it gonna kind of just like make the attitude of the plane change just a little bit, it's gonna allow that elevator to be more effective. So let's take a look at it. We were just gonna walk with you because this is a true Maiden. And I don't know if this will be the first flight or not, but we always try to kind of share the most exciting flight. And that was pretty exciting for me on the touchdown because we used up almost all the runway. And then also for disclosure, look at this. We've had rain today. Our weather has been absolutely terrible for flying this week. It's been either windy or dark.
Or cold.
Or cold, or all three. It actually, usually in Iowa, in the Midwest at least, the timer was trying to go off.
Oh.
At least, look at this, all the water. You can see how wet it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's definitely wet. Oh, also, we're gonna go through the full build, unbox build and radio setup up to and including thrust reverse. So this is what I'm talking about, pilot fatigue. Okay, so all I have to do, regardless of my stick position. See? So that is important for people that are just getting the hang of thrust reverse, because I can tell you, putting that stick all the way forward when you're trying to slow down, it's just a weird thing you're not used to. And we started doing that on the F-16 80 millimeter, and it really helped. Also, our warning is set too high because we're sagging just below, and so that's obviously not good either. It's annoying to have that thing going off right at the beginning of the flight. So, couple things to think about. When you do this build, look where the trim is on the elevator. You see it? Where is it?
Oh.
It's buried underneath here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to take off 2 screws, and then we're gonna have to pop this off. So we'll pause, we'll actually show that process, and then we'll also secondarily verify where the battery is. We did exactly as the manual prescribed, and we hit the CG perfect. This thing needs to be back further. And she's blabbing on about this, a warning. If you hit this, it'll shut up, maybe. Couple things about that. This battery probably needs to be back further, in my opinion. If you're a new pilot and you're flying this on 6S, I want to just encourage you that it is quite fast, but it still slows down really nicely. But I want to encourage you to just take it easy. You don't have to use the throttle because the thing will fly and then practically glide the rest of the flight. The reason I was on the throttle so hard is because we don't have the elevator trimmed, which, judging by where the sun is blinding me right now, we probably don't have long to do it. So we're gonna pause, we're gonna do it, and come right back for a second flight. Okay, so we're inside. This is the pack voltage right here, 22.2 volts neutral with no load, okay? There's our pack voltage, 3.69 across the board. So that was about 5-minute flight, maybe a little bit less. This is still energized, okay? So I can actually move the rudder under power to get to this. Do you think you can hold that while you film?
Yep.
Thank you. I just need to undo this screw. And so basically all we're gonna do is we're gonna try to fix the elevator. And if this doesn't work, then you guys will know for your own situation. As soon as I get this one loose, you can let go. Okay. Thank you. The rudder was fine. I felt like we had plenty of rudder authority. I don't remember if we had issues with this on the first one. I kind of just honestly can't remember.
I don't remember.
Okay, so there's 3 screws that give access to this part, and then there's 2 wires. Now you'll see the full exhaustive setup, unbox build and radio setup, if you hang tight past all the flights. And look at this, guys. I'm just gonna tip this off to the side like this. I'm not gonna go any further than I have to. See, the 2 wires are plugged in up there. Here we go, look at that. That's not gonna be too bad. Now let's look at where my elevator is right now. This is in AS3X, look where it is. It's above the center line, okay? Show them from here. I want them to see that. You see that? I'm above the center line, okay? I would say that it's about halfway above, and I felt like it needed a little teeny bit more if you really asked for a comfort. Now, two things you can do. You can either undo this and screw these out. That's going to be a huge pain in the neck. Or I think it's enough. We can just go over one. Okay. So you see what I'm doing? I'm taking this off. I'm just going to take and mark that with a marker so I can remember where it had been. Okay. And then I'm going to mark the angle that it was shooting out. Okay. Then I can easily replicate where that was. And the reason we go through some of these steps, folks, is because we know a lot of you are new pilots, and this would not be necessarily something that you would have right up in your brain, because how would you know unless you've done it, right? Okay, so now I'm just gonna lift that. I'm gonna rotate this funky thing, and that is gonna provide more output than this. Okay, so I'm just gonna go all the way out. That might be a little much, but we're gonna do it anyway. So you can see where that black mark was. That's gonna move so much, and then this is gonna move more, okay? So then you can just slip that back on, and then mechanically speaking, see how that's gonna push that off to the side a little bit? Look where my elevator is. See, I need to go up just a little bit more with this little linkage. Look what's happening. See how it's up a little bit more? Mm-hmm. Now watch this. Hey, watch the radio, okay? Look at this. Now I can clear my trim on the elevator, which is here. See, that's a lot of trim, guys. And what I like to do is I'd like to fly with the battery in that position, but I felt like the flare was so underwhelming that I need to probably get the battery back a little bit. So instead of being somewhat centered, probably on this front edge is where we put it, okay? You can see that's flush with the front strap. I'm probably gonna bring it back a little bit. But see, we just increased our elevator authority. So now look at this. We're checking for throw. There is a limit here we're gonna run into. See what's happening there, folks? Show the people what I'm talking about. I'm running into the foam. So because of that little collision, I'm gonna probably go ahead and jump in there with an X-Acto knife and just give ourselves a little bit extra clearance. I could also set limits. Why don't you come to the other side and film from here, please? So look at this. When I push that down, you can see where it's hitting. Oh. Okay? So now what I need to do is, this is all gonna be covered, so you won't even see it. I'm just gonna trim just a little teeny bit. This is just an X-Acto knife, nothing special. You could use whatever type of knife that you would like. You know, it's Halloween. You could, it's getting to be Halloween time. You could just use your Halloween costume knife.
I thought you were gonna say your pumpkin carving knife.
Yeah, you could use that too. Okay, be careful, these things are sharp. I've stabbed myself a few times on camera for extra fun and excitement, of course. Okay, here's up, here's down. Now down's good. See, we're not hitting, at least not much. Maybe just a hair.
Just a bit.
And then that looks like we're pretty good. I feel like everything is gonna clear. Okay, so now I can throw the screw back in on the servo. Ooh, but look at that. You see where we are? We centered our trim and look where it is. See?
Oh.
You see this? See how we're not aligned? Okay, so we'll come back here. So what I'm gonna do is, I would like to closely replicate that trim, which is a little bit scary, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And we're also gonna probably have the difference between where I think that battery should be and where it's gonna end up. That means that this thing's gonna be way more pitch sensitive when I get up in the air, okay? So I'm just gonna hold this with my needle nose pliers and push it back down, okay? So now you guys can tell we have now mechanically trimmed this plane. So if you don't wanna change the hole positions, then all you have to do is just basically fix that, okay? So I'm just lined up with my black line. It's maybe not perfect, but it's close enough, because I can still trim up or down a little bit. It's no big deal, okay? My concern is I'm probably gonna have to go in and change that once I get my CG to a more appropriate location. Now, we are right by the book right now, unless we marked it wrong, which I don't know why we would have marked it wrong. So just be mindful, they don't give us a range on this plane. They just straight up tell us exactly where the CG is. And honestly, I like it that way better. Mm-hmm. Just tell us where it is. Don't make us guess, okay? So we'll drop that back down. Make sure we're still free, make sure everything works. Listen, elevator up, elevator down. Okay, we hit something. Did you hear? Watch this. Down is good. Up is not. See, we're hitting. Okay, so I'm beginning to realize why they probably set it up the way they did. So I'm just gonna reach in here and clear a little teeny bit more. Now these are types of things you wouldn't necessarily have to do, but I just want that extra throw because we fly in kind of a tight area. If you fly in a big, wide open flying field, then you're not gonna have issues with this. But see, we have that extra dilemma of clearing the tree lines and things like this. See, and this isn't structural here. I mean, yeah, to a certain degree, all foam is structural, but pull up. Okay, we're getting real close. Just need a little teeny bit more on this side, on this left side. And I'm just kind of taking as little as possible while still getting the job done. Because the idea is you really don't need to take a lot of material out to do this job, okay? So now I'm gonna take my needle nose because I can get it between. You guys always ask me to share these steps because this is where you get into the, kind of the, see? Look what's happening here. We're getting really, really, really close. And I think what's gonna happen is over time, we might have a little bit of wear and tear that I don't want to deal with on that. So we may have to rethink how much we adjusted this. We may have to go back here, but I think for today, we're probably okay. We're very considerably similar on our position. We're probably gonna have to trim it down a little bit. My guess is it's gonna probably wanna roll prematurely and it's gonna wanna lift, so I'll have to trim it down a little bit. Then we can make a mechanical adjustment accordingly for that. So mechanical adjustment, like I said, can also be made here if you have a disparity on your left elevator and your right elevator. They are split, but it's one servo, okay? Just like the original Habu STS. Okay, so here in a minute, we'll do the back screw hole last, because that'll give us the flexibility to have this held down. And then the back screw hole, I can have the camera crew hold the rudder off to one side so I can have an easy time. I'm sorry, I'm blocking you with my elbow there, everybody. Also, you'll note that I scraped the bottom of my thrust tube. I hate it when that happens. Kind of painful. Okay, could you hold that there? Okay, so this screwdriver worked pretty good. This is just one of our China screwdrivers, so come with one of the ready-to-fly aircrafts, one of the 4 million that we've reviewed. Guys, if you want to help support our channel, giving any value in these little how-to videos, if we're helping you and you want to help return the favor and help support us financially, we have a couple of different ways you can do that while we switch batteries. You can send us Patreon support monthly. You can do PayPal. We also have that, and there's a lot less fees on PayPal. And then at the end of the day, the best way to support us is to A, watch the videos, come back, like and subscribe, share it with your friends. By the way, not hot, feel that. See? And no puffage. So we're good on that. And then if you want to hand me the, let's do the 5,000. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and, what size was that? 4,000?
4,000.
So I'm going to go with a 4,050C only for the reasonable. I want to try to replicate closely what we have.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I happen to have a little bit of Velcro on the bottom, but there's no Velcro on the bottom of this plane, okay? This plane is not recommended for 5,000, but I think you could probably do it. We're going to try to test that if we have enough daylight. But getting back to the point, you can buy this plane. That's the best way to support us. We get small commissions from the companies we work with. Horizon's one of them. And by the way, we work with other companies, so it's not like we just do that. But Horizon is one of our favorites. They make a great plane. These type of adjustments are a little bit off-putting, but you know, to be perfectly frank with you, if we were to work through the CG, you might be able to avoid it. So we'll just show you in real time exactly what we run into. But I want to show you one other thing. And we note this in the unbox. But when you have a strap that doesn't feed through, they don't work real great in my opinion. So this thing should feed through. They get glued down here is what happens. And then sometimes you get lucky and you break them free, sometimes not. So what I'll do is I'll take these two and I'll kind of cross them over each other. And then that acts as a stop. But you'll note that it's kind of easy to slip. So what you have to do is you have to get really aggressive, especially when you only got one. And you really got to get aggressive and get as much contact area as possible. And you can flip these things over on themselves and then hold down that tail. You see how I did that? Then your canopy's not obstructed, but you'll note that we moved the battery back quite a bit, okay? So now the other thing you can do is if these do slip, you can wrap them through and that keeps that battery from shifting forward too much, okay? The other thing is this lead is an appropriate length, but it's not like infinitely long. So you have to be a little bit careful how and when you plug this in, that you don't get in a spot where it's held up vertical, because that'll keep your canopy from latching down, okay? So it's gonna like push up on it, and then that'll pop off while you're flying, so you gotta be careful. We haven't had that happen yet, but you see with the battery back further, it works a million times better. Look at that. So I almost wonder if maybe this is gonna be better anyway, because look at that. It's just neutrally, it's not like it's pushing up at all.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this has an AR631 and an avian ESC. Okay, so this here, I'm just gonna kind of mate those together so that they more or less stay put like that. So that's just gonna block it if it would slip, okay? So it's crossed over each other and then stuck together. And then that just kind of acts as a little wall, and it's trapped in there on the top of this thing, okay? So this goes down and under and then clicks in. There's a release. It's not spring loaded on the top, as in the canopy doesn't pop up, but you'll be good there. Now let's look at our telemetry data. I'll just set that battery aside. The telemetry data, we've cleared the timer. Look at that. Okay, so now I'm gonna click and scroll down here. This was the other problem we had. I don't even know if I want to call it a problem necessarily, but I wanted this set lower. So the nominal volts, takes a second to load. Oop, no, you have to double click. So that's way too high. So I was at 22.2.
Wait, it says 7S on the LiPo.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Okay, so 18, whatever, good enough for me. So we're only gonna get warnings every 15 seconds once they start, and the condition is maintained. I believe that's the way that works. Okay, so let's look at the elevator. Up, down, roll left, roll right. Everything looks good, so we're gonna fly next. We'll be on the end of the runway. This is 4,000. Both are 50C, but it only needs a 30C. We just happen to have 50C packs in this size. And like I said, we're gonna try to do a 5,000 6S 30C Gen 2 so you can see what it's like with the latest and greatest. All right, we'll be on the runway next. Stay tuned. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips, flight number 2 for you tonight. We're gonna show all the flights, but we just wanna let you know, this one, we had some adjustments on our elevator. We're gonna put whatever the best one is at the beginning because we figure most people aren't gonna watch all 3. Our hope is to get a third with 5,000 6S. This one is back further. That's a 4,050C 6S Gen 1. Full disclosure, first one was Gen 2. Our elevator was a little bit insufficient, but we got it to the ground, no problem. We just used full thrust reverse and made a terrible landing. So hopefully this goes better, guys. And we have full telemetry, but we experienced about a 5-minute flight, and I was on the throttle hard, even after landing, because that's what happens with thrust reverse. So the sun is just getting ready to crest over the hill, and we are excited to fly this from our more comfortable spot. Throttle cuts off. We do have pilot fatigue, and yes, we have forward thrust and reverse thrust. Controllable, and then pilot fatigue, but I'm not gonna go. All right, guys, you ready to take off? Here it goes. Full throttle. Yeah, so much better on the elevator. Look at this, guys. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's like night and day better. We need to put that in the Unbox. Look at this, guys. Look at the controllability. You can see I'm more comfortable with it because look where I'm flying.
Yeah.
Look at this. That's 50% stick input, rock solid control authority, just like I came to expect on the first one. And when I say the first one, folks, I'm talking about, of course, the Habu STS. This is the Habu, sorry, SS. The only thing that separates this from the STS is the T. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at that thing. Look how rock solid it is now. I'm loving it, loving it. Elevator corrections fixed everything, folks. If you get yours and you do it per the manual, just throw the manual away. Look at this. Now, look at this. Plenty of upside down authority, plenty of right side down authority. Right side up, sorry. That was weird. Who says that?
You.
Okay, here we go. Well, we're getting into that silhouette-y time for a couple of minutes here where up is down and down is up, folks. Look how much better the control authority is now, folks. It's just night and day, fixed totally. It was easy. We took an X-Acto knife, carved out about 1/4 inch of foam on either side so that the elevator linkages weren't a factor. And just look at that thing, guys. It's totally controllable, 6S. It's not insanity though, I gotta say. For being 6S, it's just doable, folks. And I'm using my standard dual rates Expo. We're an AS3X. Here's safe. Here's safe. Look at limited up, limited down. That was so weird. I heard what sounded like the EDF and I thought I was out of throttle. Okay, so there's limited roll, limited up, limited down. So much better, folks. You need to do that setting, folks. You need to do it. It's gonna save your plane potentially, depending on where you're taking off from. Look how insane you can get that thing now. Loving it, loving it. And also, I think the CG is maybe a little bit optimistic. You need to get it back further so you can flare this thing. Let's see how it flares now. Okay, a little bit of rudder, actually all rudder. I'm slipping big time here. Look at this. See how fast it still goes? Yeah. Thank God we've got thrust reverse, folks. That's all I'm gonna say. We did put it down on the runway. It wasn't like some massive crash, but we bounced it down the runway like a bunch of amateurs. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, sorry, amateurs. Thanks for being here with us. Look at that beautiful sunset, folks. Oh, it's so beautiful.
It just looks super solid.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's so solid. Oh, yeah! Minute 22 left. Okay? So, as you can see, it's not hard to fly now. But when you give it insufficient elevator, it's gonna suck, okay? I'm just telling you right now. Now, you're not gonna take off from there, by the way. Let's try hand launch. I know some of you guys are gonna do hand launches. This thing comes with landing gear that you can leave on or you can leave off. It's not like it's not, you know, it's not quick to remove in my opinion. And then yes, it will actually receive, I believe, the landing aid sensor. We flipped ours around, watch the Unbox build radio setup for all the details. And then there's 8 screws, just 8.
Wow.
Just 8. Oh yeah! Absolutely no problems, folks. That was not hard. I made it look hard. That's what she said. Oh, yes. I can't believe you'd fly so close to the camera crew. Don't worry, we have a substantial structure right ahead of us. Guys, look how easy it is to fly. I'm banking it. But honestly, it doesn't need that. I'm just trying to relax into this thing, and look how nice it is, guys. Beautiful trim livery, shows up really nice in the fall sky, which is beautiful. It looks like a little Halloween decorated plane actually, which is ironic. Oh yes. Okay, here we go. Let's do some upside down flight performance. Oh yeah, she gets right out of it, and that's with full throttle, by the way. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being insane, like, let's just call the V1200 as the more insane of the group. I do have a little bit too much up trim right now. I'm gonna see if I can bring that down just a hair. You hear that?
Yeah.
That is so cool sounding. Oh man, I love that sound. You know what I just did?
What?
I trimmed my throttle. What is wrong with me? There we go. Here we go. Okay, level flight, AS3X. See the nose? Man, that thing is rock solid now. Look at that. The noise you were hearing was actually throttle being input by yours truly. Your wonderful host, in his vast wisdom, was trimming the throttle, not the elevator. What the heck, Brian? Sorry, folks. Look how nice and flat it is now. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Oh, by the way, in case you were wondering, those hints of fog coming from our faces, that's called winter.
It's so sad.
I know, it is extremely sad. Oh, by the way, Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna come down for an inside pass. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you good, really?
Yes.
You're acting like you're not good.
Of course I'm good.
I'm just kidding. Oh man, I love the way that looks. Let's go to the bull for a minute.
Okay.
Oh man, that is so pretty. Let's show you some tight quarters flying, folks. You know that we do it here on Brian Phillips RC. You know, we're not gonna fly on some 100-foot wide runway unless, of course, we found one that we could use, and we would totally do that every single day because that would be stinking sweet. But let's be real, folks. We don't all have retired runways to fly from, but if we did, it would be awesome. Whoa, buddy.
It still have to be right outside our front door.
That's true. Oh, we got a warning. Oh, by the way, this plane is designed to fly on 4S. Okay. I'm just gonna be probably a little bit on the safe side. I like the approach from this side, and we've got such good wind conditions. It has been terrible this week. I mean, like absolutely mindless amounts of wind. I was driving a lot and the wind was blowing the car around. Let's see if we can do it without. Oh yeah, sorry. Too much fun. Guys, thrust reverse. Thrust reverse is awesome. Does that not sound sweet?
It does. And no one believed you that you weren't going to use it, so it's okay.
Yeah, nobody believed it.
We're good.
Everybody knew it was BS.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more flight we're gonna try to get in.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Think so?
Yeah. Okay, so that was good. Our flight timer was 3 minutes and 22 past 5, so 8 minutes and a half. 8 minutes and a half is probably pushing it on 4000 Gen 1 50C. We're gonna try 5000, stay tuned. All right, so Habu SS, we're gonna try the 5000 Gen 2 30C6S, just to show you it will maybe work. Just ram it right in this hole here, bring it all the way back, don't crush your antenna, and then pull this tight and get as much purchase as you can, okay? I don't know how the CG is gonna work out. You see what I do with the slack? I try to flip this over and stick it to itself, okay? Then I do the same thing here, just like that, okay? These aren't gonna quite reach, or I would do it. I would just touch it to each other, and I can't slip the slack. These are the middle grade straps, if you're wondering. AR631, very good setup. Been very, very, very happy with the 631. Very happy with the 637T and TA. We gotta watch for this though. You see, we gotta keep that open, folks. I need to stop wiggling it, but I can't resist because the sun's going down. See what I did? That's gonna give us room for this thing. Okay, 2 dances, that means safe's on. Okay, let's do some taxiing on this too. Well, before we do that, let's check CG. This thing is getting foggy, look at this.
Ooh,
that is so crazy. So the dew point is within 1%, maybe, of the relative humidity because it rained recently. So what that means is we're gonna get dew on the plane. And it is cold. No,
cold.
I'm not that evidently effective today. Throttle cuts off. Who wants to do that? We're gonna back up into position because that's what fun things happen. Look at this. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, loving it. Sounds so much better going backward. Okay, now don't go into pilot fatigue like an idiot. Okay, here we go. 5006S 30C, she's in the air. Oh yeah. Oh, this is so good. Oh, it's so perfect, guys. The 5000, what the heck, Horizon? 5000's fine. What are you talking about? Look. Look, it's perfect. Okay, here we go. Full speed pass, if we will. Oh, yeah! That is a Gen 2 30C6S 5000. Burning it up here, folks, on the Habu SS. Not to be confused with the Habu STS, which only has one character difference in its name. Thank you for not confusing us, Horizon. So just to be clear, this is the SS, as in like Super Sport, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know if that's what it stands for.
It does matter.
Scale Safe Trainer. Nah, dang it. See, that's got the T in it.
Yeah, see? No T.
Oh, so by the way, folks, check this out. Safe. Okay. Limited bank angles. Limited elevator up, limited elevator down. Yeah, buddy, we got it set good. We will show you everything you need to do to make this plane fly as good as you're seeing here. Should we try to destroy it real quick?
No.
I don't want to either. What I was gonna say is I wanna see what it'll do with thrust reverse mid-flight. Oh, you don't want to?
Sounds like a terrible idea.
It does. Man, listen to that fan, it's awesome. Okay, so just to be clear, folks, on 3S and 4S, the Habu SS, the Habu STS, the Safe Trainer, was plenty good in my opinion, but a little bit on the slower side for some of you more experienced pilots, but you wanted to experience this. Okay, so let's do pilot fatigue up in the air and see how it looks. Okay, from a marginally safe height. What was that? That's probably the stupid landing sensor. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. I know exactly what it is. It's totally our landing aid sensor plug. That was hilarious. Let's check it close. Let's come in slow. Look at this, guys. 5,000. Look, real slow. Yep, that's what I knew that thing was gonna be gone on the first flight. It was the third flight, Horizon. And yes, we did modify ours to be pointed the right direction in the event of a grass landing. Loving it, folks. Oh, upside down performance is decent, even with 5,000. That was 75% elevator input. And yes, we did stick it in the outside-most hole, not the one that it came in, for those of you wondering where we stuck it. That is the sticking it in the elevator control horn. And that is the elevator control horn is under the base of the rudder and vertical stabilizer. So when you're watching our build, remember that we updated you on all the details at the end of our first flight. This is our third flight and it is doing great. I would say if you guys got a 5,000 6S, just do that, man. You don't need to do a 4,000. You can do a 4,000 if you want to be a little bit more light on its feet, but I think it's overkill. And plus, I have the least 4,000s of any of the smart packs, I believe. Look how much ups you got though. It's what you expect from a jet, folks. So is this your first 6S plane? I don't know. I think that would be a very safe thing to do. I also think that this plane has a little bit of a challenging, I don't know if I want to call it repair or modification to get that elevator to throw properly. It wasn't hard, but it is a little bit weird. So watch the video. Watch all 3 flights. If you're thinking about getting this and you're a new pilot, remember, there are times that we make things look a little bit easier than they might be for a beginner. So we're not trying to deceive anybody. The Scale Safe Trainer, which would be the STS, it's red and white, right? And silver.
And gray.
That plane is easy to fly. This plane on 6S is a little bit more challenging, folks. And when I say challenging, I mean, it's only challenging because I do crazy stuff. If I was flying in a big, open, boring environment with a 150-foot wide runway that I could land sideways on, it would be scary at all, folks. It'd be easy. Watch this. Safe! Look at that. Hands off. Hands off. Hands off. That was my stick. I bumped it with the strap of my lanyard. That's why you heard it whining in its pass. Okay, so this will be a safe pass. We're out of throttle altogether. We are expired on our timer, but we're also in a 5,000. We just did a 4,000. Same age, size, class, everything. And the funny thing is, we got about 8.5 minutes on it, but I would say this one should go equally far, if not a little bit further. You got to remember, sometimes there's a trade-off. You don't always get a lot of extra flight time with the bigger pack because there's kind of the sweet spot in energy density. Sorry, I'm trying to be quiet so you can hear it. Oh, that sounds so good. The energy density and the amount of flight time. So also sometimes you're a little harder on the pack on one flight versus the next, but this is a 30C pack in the Gen 2 lineup. We have beat the heck out of our Gen 2 packs, some of them. 28 minutes on the Carbon Z Cub. I think 26 or 25 minutes on the Carbon Z Cessna. Carbon Z Cessna 150T. Okay, we're out of safe now. You guys got what you needed out of it, I'm sure. Lighting is getting a little bit less than desirable on that pass. The camera is gonna make it look really bright and it's just not. We're gonna start losing our orientation. So let's see how the landing goes with the bigger pack. Oh guys, just love the way this thing flies. You may have noticed a bad correction there. That was just a pilot error. I was just playing it safe because it's a new plane, I don't wanna crash. Okay, doing a little bit of cross control to keep that nose pointed up. That means I'm giving almost full rudder because there's no flaps. Now I'm gonna come out of it and just fly to the ground and get ready for pilot fatigue. A little bit of flare at the end and pilot fatigue. Woo! Out of pilot fatigue. That was a terrible landing. Therefore, what do?
Do it again.
Exactly. Okay, so ordinarily we don't do a lot of hand launches, but some of you guys are gonna wanna fly with the gear off and just do hand launches and things. So I'm just gonna show you, even with the 5000 6S, we're gonna go ahead and take off with the 5000 6S right now. Look how easy that was, folks. And I've only got about, let's call it 150 feet before those lines there. Okay. Oh man, my fingers are getting cold, hon, are yours?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Going around, I didn't feel it. The 5000's a little bit heavier, it carries a little bit more inertia with it, but that's fine, about 15% throttle here. I'm gonna try to get into a bit of a flare. I wonder if the battery shifted just a little bit on us on that landing, that bouncy one. Getting into the flare, and here we are. That is just something else, folks.
That was pretty good.
Guys, love the way this thing flies. Throttle cut's on. We're not in our pilot fatigue. We do show how to set up the pilot fatigue where it goes full reverse regardless of your stick position in our Unbox build and radio setup. So just full disclosure, the only thing we don't review in the Unbox build radio setup is our elevator adjustments, which will be part of the flights. It was our first flight on 3200, or excuse me, we did 4000. We didn't do a 3200, it just seemed a little lame. Because the 4000 did good, we did a 4000 Gen 1. Then we corrected our CG back a little bit. We did a Gen 2 4000 50C. 50C didn't make a difference, 30C was fine. So if you're getting a 30C, you'll be just fine. Then this is 5000 6S, the heaviest pack that will probably fit in here. You're not gonna get a 7000 in there without carving and or building a whole new front end of this plane. But we did modify our elevator, and it looks like we need to be about half of an elevator up to get that thing to fly flat, okay? You see that? So when you're doing your Unbox, you can either pre-trim this mechanically with these 3 screws. I'll move the rudder. There's 1, 2, 3, and then you can tip it even when it's all built, okay? We did all that on camera, but I ended up going 1 spline up to make a mechanical adjustment, and then I trimmed it back down, and I'm at 48. So I'm about, let's call it half of my trim up, okay? That's to correct for the, I did a lot of up correction mechanically, and I needed about half of that. So really, we might be where we need to be. Because if you're changing the spline position, as opposed to the turnbuckles on the end, and there's 2 of them, there's one for the left and one for the right. You can change the spline position and move the whole thing, but it's gonna be about half, okay? So if that makes sense, you'll visualize it better when you see the way it goes together. By the way, this goes together exactly like the Habu STS. So don't be surprised if you get this and you're like, it seems very familiar. That being said, good call, Horizon. This should have always been available as a bind and fly. Now it is. So I think sometimes these things happen and we're like, you know, here in the cheap seats, we're kind of like, why did you Why did you not make a bind and fly? Well, they didn't make a bind and fly, but who knows? Maybe they just didn't get the stuff over here from China in time, because this thing is awesome. And honestly, I love the way it flies. I love the way the original one flew. My only qualms with this plane are the same. And yes, the landing aid sensor plug is what popped out. So we can go over there and find it in the grass. Should be real easy, because as you can see, they harvested the corn. If you guys want to see the way that they harvest the corn too, we put that in an F-1670 version 2, where they were updated to the AR-631. We released it here a week ago. And so if you want to see that harvest, we've got a little bit of video footage of that, if you guys are into that sort of thing. But just look at that thing. Look at this. That is so cool. We've got water on it. Just to give you an idea, we're both cold.
Yeah.
So also the landing gear are robust, and I bounced that landing something fierce. That's how I scraped the tail. You see that?
Yep.
I scraped that on my first landing using thrust reverse, but I was really carrying a lot of speed. And the CG was too far. This battery, they're gonna tell you to CG here. That's wrong, okay? You're gonna want that battery back. They say if you're using a 4000 to put it centered in that battery tray. No way. No way, Jose. Not unless you got a 4,000 foot long runway. And if you do have a 4,000 foot runway, it's fine. Also, same thing, if you have clearings on both ends like most runways do, then the elevator in the stock configuration will be fine. But if you're gonna fly it for fun, just put it to the outside hole, trim the V-shaped opening where that mechanism moves. You'll understand. Watch our video. You're gonna fly your plane twice as good as the stock ones. I'm just letting you know right now. Don't assemble it without doing that. You might as well not even bother, because you're gonna be taking it apart, I guarantee it. So as you can see here, strap back, strap forward. Look how far back we are. We're pretty much, I would say we're a 1/4 inch from riding there. And I think it might've slipped just a hair on our first crappy landing. Also, it handled it really nicely. We didn't have any damage at all on the landing gear. I was kind of afraid that we would have broken these mounts, but they seem to be quite robust. And I hate getting my planes dirty, but you know what? For you guys, we'll do anything. Look at this. Very good amount of throw, very good ground handling. I love the way the thing looks. It's got a lot of features that are what we have come to expect in RC, well, Megan and I have come to expect in the last 5 to 6 years. The NX8 was great. I know that rhymes. It's not on purpose. So this went really smooth, but it's a little bit more involved now because we do assignment for safe select in board programming, right?
Yep.
So it's this hybrid where we're setting up flight modes and then turning it on and turning it off. We happen to assign ours here. So yes, there is full safe select on this plane. Safe select being on is indicated by startup, 2 dances versus 1. That's 1 dance. That's 2 dances. You'll hear it, trust me. It sounds just like I did. And that's gonna tell you that it's capable of being turned on. And then you have to go into flight modes, activate a flight mode, or you might even be able to just do a digital switch setting. But I do flight modes because it's nice and I can name them.
Safe mode. AS3X mode.
It's nice to have that, and it's nice to have that up on the display.
Safe mode.
Yep.
AS3X.
I show all that in our video. So if you're in any doubt, if you're new to the hobby, why are you buying the NX8? That's expensive, Brian. Yeah, and so are the Chinese ones now. So just remember, this is a good transmitter. It's gonna get you through literal years of flying planes. It's a little bit more expensive than some of the knockoffs that do DSMX and DSM2, but just trust me, if you want my help, just buy this. And I'm not worried about any sort of small commission that we get, from Horizon on these things. I mean, we're worried about it for like millions of sales if you're gonna buy 1 million. But the thing is, I'm saying, what I'm more worried about is that you could get it working, okay? Because I will have people asking me, oh, how do I do this on a Radio Master or something like that? I don't know. Good luck. I don't know what to tell you. I want to help you, but I just don't have one. I don't happen to have one. And the NX8 has been so good, I have no reason to look elsewhere. We tried a jumper a while back, and it was just one of those where I would go in there and off camera, I'd spend hours fighting the thing to get it to work. And then I would come on camera and I would show you what I was doing, and it would be like, a 5-minute clip. So you guys think it's easy, but then I would waste half an afternoon trying to get it to work. And I know they're getting a little bit better, but even still, I can spend 2 hours and have the most complicated plane I've ever built set up on this. And it's not even 2 hours, it'd be more like 40 minutes if I was just doing it on my own in the privacy of our home without filming and sharing it. So if you want help this is the best way to do it. And you've got lots of users in the Spectrum arena and Spectrum tech support and Spectrum parts that are gonna be replaceable. If you drop this thing and break a gimbal, you're not gonna be screwed. I have dropped mine once and I have replaced a switch, and I took it out of one of our other ready to fly switches. So anyway, just full disclosure, I really like this plane. Is it as good, now that the $10,000 question you're asking, is it as good as the F-1670? The question is a very, very, very fair question. Is it as good? It depends on what you're going for. If you want a plane that's easier to fly and you want a first EDF, and I just told you here a week ago, it's the F-16 is the best first 6S, not a beginner plane. This is more in tune with a beginner plane than that. This is more robust than that. That has retracts. That doesn't have flaps because they have flaperons on a real one, and it just doesn't really help on that 70. Trust me, I've tried it, and yes, we do have video footage of that on our version 1. We also have video footage of putting on air brakes onto the landing gear, and that worked well, but really, you just gotta get the CG back further, and you can flare that thing all day and get great landings. That all being understood, is this plane as good? It depends on what you like better. I think the looks of the F-16 are infinitesimally better, but I think that this plane is better if you're on the fence, if you're still learning, if you're still truly flying in safe. This one is tuned well. You've got a very wide limit on your bank angles and your pitch angles. Way better on this than you do on the STS. The STS barely lets you point it down. I mean, it's like, that's what you get. You get like 3 degrees down. And you think I'm exaggerating, but just go back and watch my videos. You pretty much can't bring it down, okay? So I liken it to my first landing with the Crescendo, where I was going around for like 37 laps to get it down to the ground. This thing, it allows you to push the thing down, okay? Then you can get into alignment with the runway and flare. So it's very cool. They worked out some of the bugs on that. I don't know if I want to say they're bugs. When you're a beginner, down is kind of like the killer move. So, but remember, things don't just like, you don't fly in a complete void of things. That is so cool. Look at this. Look at this view. Look at this. That's how chilly it is. But we've got fog developing over here. I wish I was flying in that. So at the end of the day, folks, it's a beautiful fall in central Iowa. We're so glad that you're here along for the ride with Megan and I, the camera crew and I. And we really appreciate your support. The way you can support us is buy the stuff from the links. It's the easiest way if you want to support us financially. Otherwise, we have Patreon and PayPal. They're both available. They're both very easy to use. The fee structure is a lot higher on Patreon, just so you know. And there's a new rule coming into effect. Yay, we all love rules. Where you're going to pay sales tax on Patreon if you're in certain states, and we offer services in return for Patreon, which is why we have never done that. We specifically say you're helping to support the free content that we put out for YouTube on Patreon. That is specific so that you don't have to pay sales tax, okay? We claim that for you, and we're being above board, just so you know. But the thing is, if you're overseas, they were already doing VATs on that, value-added taxes, and that's pretty high on some of you guys. So we want to try to avoid that. If you want to help support us, fine, but Patreon, we still don't think that's the best way. The best way is buy these awesome planes. Show them the awesome plane. This thing's cool, okay? Cool. Is it my favorite jet? No. My favorite jet currently is the 80mm F-16. But if you got the 80mm F-16 and you flew that and you needed this plane, guess what? You're not going to have the 80mm F-16 again, because you're probably going to crash it on the first landing and it'll be destroyed, okay? Then you can buy this. People that buy $600 to $700 EDF jets for their second or third plane, they will be very quick one and dones, maybe 2 or 3 and dones. And we don't want that. We're trying to avoid that in the hobby. That's one of our principal features on Brian Phillips RC, is teaching you guys how to use the equipment to its fullest potential to get a good flying plane. Because look how much better that flew on Flight 3, which is why you're going to see Flight 2 probably, and then Flight 3, and then Flight 1, and you'll understand exactly what we did for adjustments. It's super easy. So that's our second big function on this channel, is to stop one and dones. We don't want people to go through the old-timey mistakes where they build for 6 months on a stick-built plane and then they put a gasser on it and they immediately crash it and it's gone. The days of that are over. We have simulators. Well, and they had simulators back then too. They just didn't work as good. We also have better equipment and we have safe Safe is the savior for all of you new pilots. Just get a plane that's appropriate and you will do well. And you can learn to fly a lot quicker than I have. I've been flying for 7 years, right?
Almost.
6.5, something like that. And I feel like I can fly whatever I want to fly. But I also get more scared flying more expensive and more complicated planes that fly faster and land faster. We also have limitations because of our real estate and where we live and the types of environments that we choose to fly in. If you fly at a really big field, you may not have some of those set limitations. So this plane will get you up in the air. It will give you a very fun 6S experience. But get this, if you are on a tight budget and you don't want to pay for the ready to fly of that, this might be a better option. So the ready to fly in this is expensive because it's got everything you need. You may not want that. So go ahead and get the 6S and guess what you do? Fly it on 4. We didn't even show it on 4 because who's gonna watch that? So 4S is gonna be a lot more lame. It's gonna be more similar to the original. And when I say lame, I don't mean like bad. I mean lame like as in it's more slow. It's more easy to control. It's lighter on its feet because your battery is gonna be about a third lighter. Also, your CG, you need to check on that. Your CG could probably be closer to where the factory marks were, and I think you'll do fine. But the elevator's still gonna need to get adjusted, folks. So do the elevator thing. And yes, my dual rates in Expo are set to standard, like I always set, and I'm in the middle setting. So everything went really well. I felt like this plane performed as expected, but I would have liked to see the whole position that the factory picked be out one more. So it's a little bit more of a preference thing to go to this as opposed to a necessity. That being said, we didn't crash it as a result or anything like that, but I had full trim in there. So watch the videos. You'll learn from our mistakes and or what we did here on this Maiden. And I think you'll have a very good experience if you can emulate some of the high points that you agree with us on. Other than that, great plane. Get one for yourself. We really appreciate you. Best audience on YouTube. Folks, thank you for your support. We've got Patreons coming out the wazoo, which is really nice. And we are so happy that you guys are here to support us. But really the big thing is we want you to buy this stuff so you can get in. You got to start before you can get to being an expert. I don't claim to be an expert, by the way. I'm just saying, if you want to be an expert pilot someday, you have to start somewhere. Don't wait until you're old and broken to build this hobby. Just do it now. And if you're already old and broken, do it anyway. But the whole point is, don't wait another year. Get into it now. Don't think it's going to get cheaper. Don't think it's going to get easier. Don't think it's going to get better. It will get better. But the thing is, you got to start now and you got to start somewhere. Why not right now? Get on there, order one. You'll love it. It's super fun. We're here to help support you. You're going to have a million questions, and don't feel bad about asking questions. We got a huge network of people here on Brian Phillips RC that watch these videos, and they're just as fanatic as I am, and they will chime in if I'm taking 2 or 3 days and beat me to it. But generally speaking, I try to answer 100% of our comments myself, and we basically do that. Just take some time, so be patient with us. Awesome plane. E-flite, good job. Spectrum, good job. Very happy with the smart packs. Very happy with the flight performance. I'm freezing. Stay tuned. We'll share the Unbox build and radio setup shortly.